Chapter 326. Ning Xuema looked at the 3 snake gallbladders, which were bigger than goose eggs, and her lips twitched. She had forgotten that the snakes were giant pythons. The young man was bitten by 3 giant pythons, so she had to give him some of the bile in the gallbladders. The young man was awakened by the bitter taste. He wanted to spit out the bitter taste in his mouth, but Ning Xuema pinched his chin and said, "Swallow it. It will save your life." The young man was slightly stunned, but he could only swallow it with his teeth clenched. After swallowing 2 mouthfuls, his throat was trembling because of the bitter taste. Finally, he finished 1 gallbladder. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the second gallbladder came close to his lips and said, "Here, there are 2 more." The young man was speechless. The young man finally finished the 3 gallbladders, and the snake venom was removed. His face turned green because of the bitter taste. However, the dizziness and nausea were alleviated. He turned over and wanted to get up, but he suddenly felt that his body was stiff. He looked down and saw bandages all over his body. He was tied up like a mummy. "All right, you're lucky to have your life back." Ning Xuema clapped her hands and stood up. She asked Kiran to get some water to wash her hands. The young man looked at her with his eyes wide open, and his expression was complicated. Why did you save me?" He did not know this girl, right? And on such a dangerous snake-scorpion peak, what was her goal? Ning Xuema glanced at him and said, "I saved you for fun. You can go down the mountain by yourself. I have something to do, so I won't accompany you." She patted Kiran's head and said, "Little apple, let's go." She still needed to pick herbs. The young man struggled on the ground and finally sat up. Because of the smell of Kiran, all the snakes and insects did not dare to come close. He gritted his teeth, picked up the sword that had fallen next to him, and stood up stiffly. However, he had just been removed from the snake venom, and he had lost too much blood. After standing up, he felt dizzy. Finally, he could not support himself and fell to the ground again. "You can't move around casually now. It's better for you to rest for an hour. Don't worry, I've already asked Kiran to pee around. No snakes or insects will attack you." After saying that, Ning Xuema turned around and rode away on Kiran. The young man was stunned for a moment as he watched her leave. He closed his eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and began to regulate his breathing. He didn't want to die, he had to live on. He still had to pick the heavenly ice grass. After an unknown amount of time, the young man finally finished recuperating and regained some strength. He opened his eyes and was stunned for a moment. It was unknown when the green-clothed girl had returned. In her palm, there was a faint blue grass that was trembling slightly. Heavenly ice grass. The young man's eyes lit up. He looked at the young girl. Didn't you risk your life to come here for this stalk of grass?" Ning Xuema said. Her voice was still indifferent. "I picked an extra stalk just now. I'll give it to you." That young man. He slowly reached out and took the stalk of grass. He gently placed it into his mouth and slowly ate it. He did not say the word "thank you" because it was too light. Ning Xuema took advantage of the time when the young man was meditating and left on Kiran. Since the young man could come here with a broken sword, it proved that he had extraordinary abilities. As long as the snake venom was removed, he would be able to leave the mountain alive. "Master, do you know him?" Kiran had been holding it in all the way. When they were about to reach the foot of the mountain, he finally could not hold it in any more and asked. Chapter 327. Ning Xuema shook her head. "I don't know him. She only saved him because she saw the face that resembled number 2's. This person is too much. You saved his life and gave him a stalk of grass. He didn't even say thank you. How rude." Kiran was a little angry. "I don't have to ask for something in return for a favor. I don't need a thank you from him. He's much better than that red-clothed pervert. That guy was the real one who repaid kindness with ingratitude. Fortunately, he was tricked into the water by her. Speaking of which, was that pervert eaten by the monsters? He hasn't appeared for so many days. He should be dead, right? What a pity. Where did he hide that good zither?" Ning Xuema shook her head and decided not to think about this annoying problem. She yawned and said, "Let's go. I'm sleepy." The matter of Ning Xuema subduing a Qilin had long been known by everyone. Therefore, recently, the little Qilin frequently appeared in the city in its original form. Aside from attracting people's attention, nothing else happened, and no one dared to have any ideas about it. If they caught it, they would have to catch that jinx, Ning Xuema. Jinxes were the bane of people. This time, Ning Xuema was a little tired. She simply let Kirin carry her in its original form and run into the city. As expected, it attracted the attention of passers-by. Occasionally, the sound of discussion drifted into her ears. Is the one who just passed by Miss Ning? Yes, it's that jinx. She'll stay away from her. Don't get the bad luck. Yes. When we get home, we should wash off the bad luck. The two of them were in a heated discussion. Suddenly, there were two whooshing sounds in front of them. The two of them looked up and saw two black balls flying into their mouths. It smelled fishy. The two of them almost choked to death. They hurriedly pulled the balls out of their mouths. When they looked down, they vomited. What blocked their mouths were actually two balls of fresh donkey dung. A girl's laughter came from the front. Her laughter was like a silver bell swaying all the way. Master, good aim. Kirin praised. Its little master didn't even look back. She just flicked the willow branch she was playing with on the ground, and the two balls of donkey dung automatically flew backward. Ning Xuema patted her small mouth and yawned. Of course, your little master was number one in hidden weapons that day. While they were speaking, they had already arrived at the city gates. Ning Xuema had just arrived when a group of soldiers suddenly gathered at the city gate. You're back. She's back. Ning Xuema frowned. She hadn't done anything wrong recently, had she? Why were the soldiers surrounding her? Just as she was about to ask, the crowd parted and a black-clothed bodyguard knelt down in front of her. Miss Ning, please save our crown prince. Ning Xuema. She had already recognized that person as Ji Yunhuang's personal bodyguard, whom she had met 2 or 3 times before. His name was Lei Lu. What happened to your crown prince? His Highness, he was seriously injured and his life is at stake. Ning Xuema raised her eyebrows and immediately said, Let's go to the crown prince's residence. Lei Lu, tell me in detail how he got injured. The crown prince's residence, which used to be orderly and well-trained, was now in chaos. The crown prince's aides, civil and military officials, and even Lu Hinti were all gathered in the crown prince's residence. The imperial physicians in the palace and all the famous doctors in the capital were urgently summoned to the crown prince's residence. Chapter 328. Inside the crown prince's bedroom, Ji Yunhuang's face was as pale as a sheet. He was lying on the bed with his teeth clenched, not moving an inch. A doctor was trembling in fear as he examined him. Lu Hinti's face was as calm as water as he paced back and forth in the main hall. Oppressive and oppressive, that invisible pressure made everyone unable to breathe. In the corner of the main hall, there was a row of doctors kneeling like quails. All of them had their heads lowered as they were so nervous that they were sweating profusely. After a while, the doctor who was examining the crown prince also knelt down. Your Majesty, Lu Hinti anxiously asked, how is it? The doctor's lips trembled. Your Majesty, the crown prince's heart was injured. This official is also powerless. Trash. Lu Hinti slammed his palm on the table. What did I raise all of you for? If anything happens to the crown prince, I will bury all of you trash with him. That doctor also trembled as he knelt down with the other doctors. Cough. Ji Yunhuang, who had been standing straight and motionless, suddenly trembled. A gurgling sound came from his throat. He suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Your Highness. Huang brother. In a flurry they wiped away Ji Yunhuang's blood and cleaned him up. Ji Yunyao, who had been standing at the side, looked at Ji Yunhuang whose face was as white as a sheet and cried out. Brother, you must hold on. Woo, if anything happens to you, I don't want to live anymore. Shut up. Lu Hinti became even more anxious when he saw her crying. You still have the face to cry here? If it wasn't for your brother saving you, how could he be injured like this? Shut up, don't disturb him anymore. Ji Yunyao's body trembled as she resisted the urge to cry. Tears flowed down her face. Your Majesty, Divine Dr. Mo has arrived. A eunuch hurriedly came to report. Lu Hinti's eyes lit up as if he had finally grasped onto a life-saving straw. Quickly invite him in. Quickly invite him in. Divine Dr. Mo was a young man who looked to be around 30 years old. He was handsome and refined. On this continent, there was no one who did not know of Divine Dr. Mo's name. No one knew who his master was. They only knew that his medical skills were extremely brilliant. He could bring the dead back to life and heal bones. It was unknown how many people on the verge of death had been brought back to life by his miraculous hands. No matter where this person went, he would be treated as a guest of honor. Even the royal families of the 5 countries treated him differently. This person was indeed unique when it came to treating illnesses, but his temper was also strange. He was extremely arrogant and would not allow anyone to question him. Once he was questioned, he would definitely leave. Therefore, everyone who invited him treated him with respect and treated his judgment as an imperial edict. Upon hearing his arrival, not only did Lu Hinti have hope, even the row of doctors who were kneeling quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Hinti led the civil and military officials who had been waiting outside to welcome Divine Dr. Mo in. Ji Yunyao's eyes widened as she stared unblinkingly at Divine Dr. Mo walking to the bed to treat Ji Yunhuang. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. Lu Hinti also held his breath. This was their last hope. Divine Dr. Mo's eyebrows wrinkled even tighter. Lu Hinti and the rest also stared at his expression. Seeing his frown, their hearts also seemed to tighten. After a moment, Divine Dr. Mo finally let go of Ji Yunhuang's wrist and slowly stood up. Chapter 329. Divine Dr. Mo, how is he? Can he be saved? Lu Hinti bluntly asked. Divine Dr. Mo's voice was flat. His heart was injured by the heavenly star sex blue star saber. The blue star saber also had the soul-breaking parasite. Now the parasite has entered his 8 extra meridians and his heart is on the verge of breaking. If it wasn't for the fact that the Crown Prince's psychokinesis had reached Earth rank level 3, he would have been dead by now. Yes, Divine Dr. Mo, you're right. My brother was plotted against by the heavenly star sect. Since Divine Dr. Mo can see through his injury, you must be able to cure him, right? Ji Yunyao's eyes sparkled, full of hope. Divine Dr. Mo shook his head and was about to speak when the guard outside reported. Reporting to the Emperor, Miss Ning from the Marquis Jingyuan estate has arrived. Lu Hinti subconsciously frowned. What is she doing here? Ji Yunyao was even more furious. What is this jinx doing here? If not for her, my brother wouldn't be able to endure such a heavy injury. Reporting to the Emperor, Miss Ning said that she can treat His Highness. The guard outside reported. Lu Hinti was startled. Divine Dr. Mo sneered. What a big tone. Even I don't have full confidence in treating him. How can she treat him? Ji Yunyao snorted. How can that slut have such ability? She's just playing to the gallery. Wait for your daughter to beat her up. She turned around and ran out. Lu Hinti did not stop her. His eyes stared at Divine Dr. Mo's face. Since Divine Dr. Mo knows about the illness, you must have a way to treat my son? Divine Dr. Mo nodded proudly. I can save his life, but the parasite has already spread to his 8 extra meridians. His Highness martial arts can be considered as completely crippled. What? Lu Hinti's face changed greatly. Divine Dr. Mo was not finished. Not only will his martial arts be crippled, I'm afraid that he won't be able to walk or even sit up and take care of himself. In other words, Ji Yunhuang would be paralyzed in bed for the rest of his life. He couldn't even take care of himself. What was the difference between being alive and being dead? Lu Hinti's face turned pale. This was the son he was most proud of. If this was the result, Divine Dr. Mo, is there any other way? As long as I can make him better, no matter what you need, I will try my best to do it. Your Majesty, even if you pluck the ginseng fruit from the heavens, His Highness the Crown Prince can only do so. This is already the best outcome for him. Lu Hinti's body swayed, his heart filled with despair. The head steward leaned over and whispered into his ear. Your Majesty, just now the Imperial Guard said that Miss Ning seems to be able to treat the Crown Prince's injury. Why don't we let her in to take a look? I heard that Miss Ning had once reattached a severed arm, and restored that person's severed arm back to normal. Lu Hinti's mind moved, but before he could say anything, Divine Dr. Mo sneered. His Majesty would believe a silly little girl? Lu Hinti choked. He wanted to ask someone to invite Ning Xuema back, but he was afraid that Ning Xuema wouldn't be able to treat him. Instead, he would offend Divine Dr. Mo and lose his paralyzed son. Divine Dr. Mo immediately saw through his worries. He sneered. Your Majesty, there is no harm in letting her in to take a look. Let this commoner see if she has any miraculous tricks up her sleeves. Lu Hinti knew that Divine Dr. Mo was ridiculing him, but at this time, his son's life was more important. Lu Hinti was in a dilemma. He, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, was slightly hesitant. He held on to the mentality that with one more person, there would be more hope. He immediately decided to go with the flow and summon Ning Xuema. Chapter 330. Lu Hinti smiled apologetically at Divine Dr. Mo. Then let her come in and take a look. She may not have any methods, but to be able to consult Divine Dr. Mo is a rare opportunity for her. She still has some medical skills. Come, invite Miss Ning in. Divine Dr. Mo sneered as he casually sat down on a chair. He wanted to see who exactly was this person who dared to boast so arrogantly. Outside the Crown Prince's residence, Ning Xuema stood there with her arms crossed, coldly confronting Ji Yuniao. On the way here, she had already asked Imperial bodyguard Lei Lu about the general situation. However, the matter of Ji Yuniao framing Lususu was exposed, and the people of Heavenly Star Sect knew the ins and outs of the matter. The sect leader of the Heavenly Star Sect was furious, and sent a disciple to demand an explanation from Lu Hinti. Recently, Lu Hinti's children had been in trouble one after another. He had just beaten up his son, and demoted him to a commoner. Before he could call him back, his daughter had created such a big mess. This gave him a headache. He was so angry that he called his daughter into the palace and reprimanded her. He stripped her of her princess title, and demoted her to a princess. He ordered her to reflect on her mistakes in the princess's residence. His punishment was obviously too light, so the Heavenly Star Sect disciples were naturally dissatisfied. They found a disciple from the Opportunity Sect to sneak into the princess's residence and kidnap Ji Yuniao. That day, Ji Yunhuang accompanied Ning Xuema to the tea house to drink wine. He was called away by the princess's maid because of the princess's disappearance. Ji Yunhuang investigated carefully and found out that it was the Heavenly Star Sect who kidnapped his sister. He was afraid that Ji Yuniao would be at a disadvantage, so he brought people to chase after them. Lei Lu was also one of the people he brought along. The Heavenly Star Sect is also a famous sect on this continent, and there are many experts inside. Ji Yunhuang spent a lot of effort to find Ji Yuniao. When he was escaping with her, he met the sect leader of the Heavenly Star Sect who was returning to the mountain. After a fight, Ji Yunhuang was injured by the sect leader. Lei Lu and the others risked their lives to rescue him and retreated to the capital. Ning Xuema also understood Ji Yunhuang's current symptoms from Lei Lu's description. She also had a general idea. He had even planned out the treatment plan in his heart. But she didn't expect to run into Ji Yuniao at the entrance of the Crown Prince's residence. When Ji Yuniao saw her, it was as if she had met her enemy. Her eyes burned with hatred. Immediately, he began to curse her, calling her jinx, scourge, slut, and clamoring for her to get lost. The commotion in front of the Crown Prince's residence naturally attracted a large crowd of onlookers. Usually, this princess always put on airs. Today, people finally saw the princess's scolding skills. She was simply comparable to the butcher's wife in the market. No one dared to intervene in the affairs of the royal family, and no one dared to stand up for this injustice. Therefore, when people heard her scolding fiercely, although they felt indignant, no one dared to say anything. They all looked at Ning Xuema sympathetically, thinking that this seemingly weak girl would cry after being scolded. She didn't expect that Ning Xuema would sit there with her arms crossed and listen. After hearing Ji Yuniao's scolding, her lips curved into a smile. She sized Ji Yuniao up from head to toe before unhurriedly saying, "Is this really a princess? Is it some shrew pretending to be her?" Someone in the crowd laughed. This little girl's counterattack was good. Ji Yunyao's face immediately turned red. You slut. She raised her hand and was about to teach Ning Xuema a lesson. Chapter 331. She raised her hand and was about to teach Ning Xuema a lesson, but Ning Xuema's words stopped her in her tracks. If you want to lose a few more teeth, then come and try. Ji Yunyao immediately thought of the embarrassment Ning Xuema gave her at Heavenly Book Mountain. If Ji Yinhuang had not arrived in time, she was afraid that she would have suffered even more under Ning Xuema's hands. Ning Xuema coldly said, Ji Yunyao, let me ask you who told you to stop me? Was it His Majesty? Ji Yunyao choked. That's right. Imperial Father also doesn't want a jinx like you to enter the Crown Prince's residence, so as to avoid being tainted by your bad luck. All right, since it was His Majesty's intention, then there was no need for her to go in and ask for a rebuff. Ning Xuema faintly smiled and nodded. Very good. You're the one who said it. She then nodded at Lei Lu. Lei Lu, I can indeed treat your Crown Prince's injuries, but since the Imperial family doesn't allow me to enter the residence, then I can't help. Goodbye. She turned and left. She was not a saint and did not have the heart of a doctor. The reason why she came here was because of Ji Yunhuang's kindness. In her heart, she also saw Ji Yinhuang as a friend. Therefore, she did not care about the past and immediately came here. However, the old emperor and princess clearly did not believe her and humiliated her like this. Why should she shamelessly go up and treat them? Lei Lu became anxious and knelt down again. Miss Ning, please stay for a moment. This subordinate will personally report to His Majesty. Ji Yunyao was also stunned, but she was still unconvinced. Her small mouth twitched as she said, Why would I beg this slut? My brother has divine Dr. Mo to treat him. Why would he need this jinx's three-legged cat's medical skills? Lei Lu suddenly turned his head, and did not care about seniority. He said in a low voice, Princess, please speak with dignity. His Highness was injured because he wanted to save you. If you miss this opportunity and something happens to the Crown Prince, I'm afraid you will regret it for the rest of your life. Ji Yunyao's expression changed. She raised her hand and gave Lei Lu a resounding slap. Who do you think you are? You dare to teach me a lesson? Lei Lu stood there with his back straight. Princess, Lei Lu's lowly life is not important. His Highness the Crown Prince's injuries are the most important. Even if you beat Lei Lu to death, Lei Lu will still invite Miss Ning in. You're rebelling. With the princess's authority being offended, Ji Yunyao simply flew into a rage. You actually dare to go against my words. As soon as she raised her hand, she wanted to give Lei Lu a few consecutive slaps. However, before she could do so, someone grabbed her wrist. Ning Xuema's cold voice sounded in her ear. He is the Crown Prince's loyal guard. He is an iron-blooded man. How can someone like you be qualified to teach him a lesson? Ning Xuema's hand was as fast as lightning. Ji Yunyao was not prepared at all, and her wrist was immediately grabbed by her. Ji Yunyao's entire body immediately went numb, unable to exert even the slightest bit of strength. Ning Xuema casually flung her away, causing her to stagger and almost hit her head on the door of the Crown Prince's residence. There were other guards of the Crown Prince's residence at the door, but at this moment, they also looked down on Ji Yunyao's arrogance. Seeing that she was at a disadvantage, they all turned a blind eye and pretended not to see. Lei Lu looked at Ning Xuema and his heart was moved. Such a delicate little girl, who had already been treated unfairly, was actually willing to stand up for a servant like him. What was even rarer was her imposing manner. Once she was serious, it was actually full of power. Compared to a real princess like Ji Yunyao, she had more style. Chapter 332. This kind of girl was simply like a luminous object, unknowingly attracting everyone's attention. While the entrance was in a mess, a small eunuch rushed out and loudly announced, His Majesty has decreed that Miss Ning should quickly enter. Since the emperor had personally passed down the decree, no one dared to stop her. Lei Lu sighed in relief and bowed towards Ning Xuema. Miss Ning, please enter. Ning Xuema did not even look at the pale Ji Yunyao and stepped inside. Ji Yunhuang's injury was more important. She did not have time to bicker with the shrew princess. There would be another time to teach her a lesson. Ning Xiuma finally entered the crown prince's palace and finally saw Ji Yunhuang. Of course, she also saw the large room full of people inside. Divine Dr. Mo had been active in Chongkong country for the past few days, so he had naturally heard of Ning Xiuma's reputation as a trash and a jinx. His heart was filled with disdain and curiosity towards her. At this moment, when he saw Ning Xiuma enter, he sneered slightly. So it turned out to be this little girl who was still a fetus. Sure enough, she was too young and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She had not even seen the patient, and yet she dared to boast that she could cure Ji Yunhuang's injury. It must be because her reputation was too bad, and she wanted to use this opportunity to make a comeback. She was going to slap her in a while. Ning Xiuma naturally saw this divine Dr. Mo. She had also heard of his reputation before, but she did not expect him to be so young. According to the information she had obtained, this divine Dr. Mo was at least 50 years old. He had been famous for 30 years. To be able to maintain his appearance, it seemed like his psychokinesis was not weak. At this moment, this divine Dr. Mo raised his head slightly and looked at her with a condescending gaze with a face full of disdain. Looking at his expression, she knew what he was thinking. Her lips curled up slightly, and she did not look at him anymore. She directly walked towards Ji Yunhuang's bedside. "Excuse me, please move aside." Divine Dr. Mo was intentionally blocking Ji Yunhuang's bedside, but when he heard Ning Xiuma's words, the veins on his forehead jumped. This little girl was not old, but she had such an arrogant tone. "You said you can cure the crown prince's injury?" He did not have the intention to move aside and spoke in a deep voice. "Not bad." Ning Xiuma answered succinctly. She finally looked at him and said bluntly, "Since you can't treat me, don't stand here and block the way." Divine Dr. Mo's handsome face turned slightly red. After so many years, this was the first time someone dared to speak to him like this. "How do you know I can't treat him?" Divine Dr. Mo's voice turned cold. Ning Xiuma crossed her arms. "Do you even need to guess? If you could treat him, would His Majesty have invited me in?" Divine Dr. Mo. She was indeed a smart girl. He had yet to see how good his medical skills were, but this instantaneous deduction ability made him look at him in a new light. Lu Henti also felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed and said, "Ning Xiuma, don't be rude in front of Mr. Mo. Look at Huang Er first." As long as there was a sliver of hope, he wanted to grasp it at all costs. Divine Dr. Mo sneered again. He moved to the side and said coldly, "Good, you see. I'd like to see what a little girl like you can see." He was waiting to see this little girl make a fool of herself. Ning Xiuma took a few steps forward and checked Ji Yunhuang's condition. Her movements were quick and nimble. She was very familiar with the 4 ways of looking, listening, questioning, and feeling the pulse, but it was different from the methods of the doctors in this era. Chapter 333. Furthermore, she had her own set of Western medicine diagnoses, causing all the doctors in the room to be even more confused. Divine Dr. Mo was also looking at her. Although he still felt disdain towards Ning Xiuma, he still had medical ethics. He knew that when a doctor was treating a patient, he should avoid talking and disturbing them. Ji Yunyao had also entered the room unknowingly. When she saw that everyone's gaze was focused on Ning Xiuma, the hatred in her heart increased by another level. She first looked at the other doctors' expressions and saw that some of them were surprised, some were disdainful, some were puzzled, and some were confused. She then knew that there was a problem with Ning Xiuma's diagnosis method. She could not help but sneer. "Why are you pretending to be an expert? How can a good-for-nothing jinx diagnose an illness that Divine Dr. Mo can't? Don't let others laugh at you. Shut up." 2 people spoke at the same time. One was Lu Henti, and the other was actually Divine Dr. Mo. When the 2 of them spoke at the same time, Ji Yunyao was shocked. She shut her mouth and looked at one person, then looked at the other. She felt wronged. Imperial Father. Lu Henti simply had a headache because of this daughter of his. His face was as calm as water. "Don't make noise. Your brother's injury is more important." Divine Dr. Mo's tone was also cold. When a doctor is treating a patient, the surroundings are not allowed to make noise. Don't you know this? Ji Yunyao bit her lips hatefully, and finally didn't open her mouth to speak again. After a moment, Ning Xuema stood up. She already had an idea in her heart. Ji Yunhuang's injury looked extremely dangerous, but he wouldn't die in a short period of time. How is it? Lu Hinti couldn't help but ask. Ning Xuema's small face was expressionless. Her gaze landed on Divine Dr. Mo. What did Divine Dr. Mo say? Divine Dr. Mo sneered. You were so confident just now. Don't tell me you didn't even see the illness. Actually, he was also certain that Ning Xuema did not notice anything wrong with Ji Yunhuang's wound. At first glance, it looked no different from an ordinary knife wound. All the doctors present did not notice anything wrong with Ji Yunhuang. They all thought that Ji Yunhuang's heart was injured. Ning Xuema smiled. She was beautiful to begin with. Her smile was like a clear light that seemed to brighten up the entire bedroom. The illness isn't complicated. The crown prince's left ventricle was cut by a knife. The knife's aura cut the left ventricle. As expected, she thought that it was just a knife wound. However, it was already considered pretty good that she was able to identify the specific part of Ji Yunhuang's injury. It seemed that this little girl's medical skills were remarkable. Divine Dr. Mo sneered and pointed his nose at Ning Xuema. And? Ning Xuema smiled leisurely. Also, there was a goo poison on the saber. Now, the poison has already flowed into his 8 extraordinary meridians. The goo worm has already entered his heart, in the right atrium. Divine Dr. Mo stiffened, and his face changed. This little girl actually had such sharp eyes. He actually knew more than him, and in more detail. Could it be that someone told her in advance? Divine Dr. Mo's gaze landed on the little eunuch who delivered the decree. When he told Lu Hinti about the illness, this little eunuch was in the room. Ning Xuema smiled again. The goo poison has already rushed to the run and do meridians. She said a lot of professional terms and finally concluded. If we use ordinary methods to treat him, at most, we can save his life. However, his martial arts will be completely crippled. He might even be paralyzed in bed for the rest of his life, unable to take care of himself. After hearing this, Divine Dr. Mo's face completely changed. Ning Xuema's statement was almost the same as what he said to the emperor. Chapter 334. Ning Xuema's statement was almost the same as what he said to the emperor. When he said this to the emperor, the eunuch had already left. She really saw through it. She was not opportunistic and did not follow the crowd. Ji Yunyao's face changed and she could not help but shout. Nonsense. My brother will not be paralyzed in bed. You jinx, don't talk nonsense. Ning Xuema's face tensed up. She glanced at her and crossed her arms. She looked at Lu Hinti with a smile that was not a smile. Then pretend that I didn't say anything. Lu Hinti had been listening attentively. He was already in despair about his son's condition, but after hearing Ning Xuema's words, it seemed that there was still hope. Hearing her words, he hurriedly said, Xuema, do you have other unusual methods? Ning Xuema smiled lazily. Of course I do. If you use my method, not only can the crown prince keep his life, he can also continue to practice martial arts. However, he will need to rest in bed for a month. When she said this, Lu Hinti's eyes lit up. Divine Dr. Mo could not help but widen his eyes. He looked at Ning Xuema and did not believe her at all. Impossible. Once the parasite enters the run and do meridians, it cannot be removed. Moreover, the heart meridians that were injured by the knife will not be as good as before. Even if he can recover his ability to walk, his heart will beat like thunder after 2 steps. If he moves too vigorously, his heart meridians will break. He will still die. Ning Xuema pursed her lips. I said if it is the ordinary method, the result will be like this. Then what is your special method? Divine Dr. Mo's interest was piqued. I will tell you when necessary. Ning Xuema said lightly and looked at Lu Hinti again. Your Majesty may not believe me? Then I will ask Divine Dr. Mo to treat him. Xuema will take her leave now. Xuema. Lu Hinti finally caught a glimmer of hope. How could he let her go? He even took a step forward and stood in front of Ning Xiuema. Xiuema, what are the chances of your special method succeeding? What's the worst that could happen? I'm 70 to 80% sure. Ning Xiuema answered straightforwardly. The worst case scenario is that he can't keep his kung fu and can't use his kung fu anymore. However, he can still do normal activities. Even the worst outcome was much better than Divine Dr. Mo's best outcome. Lu Henti's eyes lit up even more. He didn't care if he would offend Divine Dr. Mo. He almost forgot himself and grabbed Ning Xiuema's hand. Xiuema, then I'll leave Huang to you. You have to try your best to save him. He treats you well. Ning Xiuema took a step back. Xiuema will do her best, but Xiuema has her own conditions. What conditions? I'll promise you anything. Lu Henti blurted out. Ji Yunyao's expression changed. If Ning Xiuema's condition was to be the crown prince's consort, then she immediately sneered at the side. Father, she's just a 13-year-old girl. How could she have better skills than Divine Dr. Mo? Don't listen to her boasting. She's a jinx. If it wasn't for her, brother Crown Prince wouldn't be like this. If she randomly asks for conditions and enters our imperial family. Her words reminded Lu Henti. His expression changed slightly and he regretted saying too much. If Ning Xiuema really asked to be the Crown Prince's consort, then should he agree or not? When the ancestor left that day, he said 1,000-year lone phoenix will cause chaos in the world. He naturally believed the ancestor's words without any doubt. Chapter 335. If she were to marry the crown prince, not only would she cause Ji Yinhuang's death, she would also cause the destruction of Chongkong Empire. Xiuemayu, what are your conditions? I will try my best to satisfy you. His words were much more tactful. Ning Xiuema was extremely intelligent, so how could she not know what this father and daughter pair were thinking? The corner of her lips slightly curved, but it was unknown whether it was mockery or ridicule. Your Majesty, don't worry. I am not interested in the crown princess. Your Majesty will definitely be able to fulfill Xiuema's conditions. Lu Henti finally let out a sigh of relief. All right, speak. Ning Xiuema's gaze fell on Ji Yunyao's body. Ji Yunyao's body inexplicably turned cold, as if she was being stared at by a ferocious beast. She couldn't help but take a step back. Why are you looking at me? Ning Xiuema's lips curved again, causing Ji Yunyao to be even more alarmed when she saw her smile. A bad feeling welled up in her heart, as if she was going to be in big trouble. This time her intuition was not bad. Ning Xiuema really opened her mouth. Your Majesty, the princess has repeatedly attacked Xiuema for no reason. Xiuema almost died in her hands several times. Now Xiuema is very unhappy whenever she sees her. Lu Henti immediately said, I will immediately have her get lost. He gave Ji Yunyao a look. Why aren't you getting lost? Ji Yunyao also knew that this was not the time to argue. Although she was angry, she still wanted to leave. Ning Xiuema sneered. So this is how your Majesty promised Xiuema? That's very good. She said the last three words very slowly and heavily. Lu Henti's heart skipped a beat, but he could only say, Then Xiuema, what are your conditions? The princess's mouth is very poisonous, making people feel suffocated. Xiuema thinks that your Majesty should teach her a lesson. Ning Xiuema said the first step. Lu Henti gritted his teeth. Xiuema, you're right. This child really needs to be taught a lesson. Guards, drag the princess down and give her 30 slaps. It was definitely an extremely shameful thing for a princess of the royal family to be slapped. What's more, the person's palms were as hard as iron palms. One slap was enough to make one's face red, and 2 slaps was enough to knock out a tooth. Ji Yunyao usually liked to slap people, but she liked to slap other people. She loved to use this punishment on women who offended her or her palace mates once they made a mistake. She felt inexplicably good when she saw that person being slapped into a pig's head. In her entire life, she had slapped countless people. Moreover, every time someone was beaten into a pig's head, she would order people to parade them through the streets, humiliating them as much as she could. Many of the women who had been dealt with by her in this way were ashamed and angry, and many of them committed suicide. And now, It was finally her turn to be slapped. When she thought of the person's swollen and purple face, Ji Yunyao was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She jumped up. Imperial father, don't listen to this slut's nonsense. 60. Ning Xuema coldly spat out 2 words. Slut, what did you say? 90. Lu Henti was about to be defeated by his stupid daughter. He immediately said, Guards, drag the princess down and give her 90 slaps. With a flick of his finger, he sealed Ji Yunyao's stupid retort to prevent the number of slaps from increasing. 2 eunuchs received the emperor's signal and came over to drag Ji Yunyao away. Unexpectedly, Ning Xuema was not finished. Your Majesty, the princess is the most honorable girl in the world. She should be virtuous, benevolent, and have a noble temperament. Princess Ji Yunyao obviously does not meet this requirement. In order to avoid being laughed at by the world, her princess title should be revoked and never be restored. Chapter 336. Some people just don't learn from their mistakes. If I don't teach her a real lesson, she won't understand that there are some people who can't be provoked. She had already offended this princess. Regardless of whether she tolerated it or not, this princess would still plot against her. Naturally, she wouldn't be polite. A drowning dog needs to be beaten up. It's best to beat it to death in one breath, so that it won't bite again. Lu Henti was stunned. He looked at his daughter whose face was already pale, then looked at his son who was lying on the bed with only 1 breath left. He steeled his heart and said, All right. I promise you. Ji Yunyao's body swayed. She didn't expect that she would end up like this today. Her pair of fiery eyes looked at Ning Xuema, but she couldn't say anything. Even if she could, she finally understood that she couldn't say anything. If she said anything, she would only be humiliating herself. She had been arrogant and despotic for so many years. Today, she finally kicked an iron plate that broke her bones. She wanted revenge. Once she gained power in the future, she would definitely take revenge. She would let this stinky girl live a life worse than death. Ning Xuema, we have already promised you. Can you treat Huanger now? Lu Henti's tone was already somewhat unpleasant. Ning Xuema remained unmoved. She raised her head and smiled faintly. Your Majesty, I haven't finished stating my conditions. There's still more. Lu Henti simply wanted to gnash his teeth, but at this time he couldn't offend this little girl. Even if he wanted to find an opportunity to punish her and teach her a big lesson, or even kill her to silence her, he had to wait until Ji Yunhuang recovered. Right now he could only follow her wishes. Xuema, what conditions do you have? Just say it directly. Lu Henti didn't want to bargain with her anymore. His son's injury didn't wait for anyone. Your Majesty is still the most straightforward. Ning Xuema clapped her hands. She was the best at reading people's minds. Lu Henti's little scheme couldn't escape her eyes. Thus, she very straightforwardly stated her conditions. First, slap Ji Yunyao 90 times, and strip her of her title of princess, never to be reinstated. Secondly, Xuema had to decide her own marriage. His Majesty could no longer grant another marriage for Xuema. Thirdly, His Majesty had to swear to Xuema that he would not retaliate against Xuema in any way, whether now or in the future, including inciting the officials. Of course, this includes Princess Ji Yunyao as well. If the oath is violated, then the ruler of Vast Sky Empire will change hands, and the descendants of the Ji clan will never be able to hold their heads high. Everyone's expression changed when they heard the last line of exits. Even Lu Henti's face darkened. Ning Xuema, how dare you? Treacherous. How disgraceful. Ning Xuema, how dare you? Is he crazy? All the ministers present began to reprimand him. This girl was simply crazy. He actually forced the emperor to swear an oath. Moreover, she had to swear such a treacherous oath. This was truly the first time since the beginning of time. Ning Xuema, do you know that based on what you just said, I can exterminate your entire clan? Lu Henti's body emitted a cold pressure that made everyone tremble. Exterminate her entire clan? Even if you exterminate the entire Ning clan, what does it have to do with her? Ning Xuema secretly mocked him in her heart. Even if the entire Ning clan was exterminated, She would not care. Ning Xiaoma calmly raised her head, as if she did not see Lu Hinti's terrifying aura. Your Majesty, could it be that you want to take revenge on Xiaoma for today's matter? Of course not. Lu Hinti naturally would not admit it. That's right. Since your Majesty does not have the intention to harm Xiaoma, why should you be afraid of swearing an oath? Chapter 337. That's it. Since your Majesty has no intention of harming Xiaoma, why should you be afraid of making an oath? Xiaoma is an orphan girl. When she is in danger, no one can support Xiaoma. Xiaoma can only protect herself. If your Majesty doesn't even give Xiaoma this kind of promise, even if your Majesty is benevolent and righteous and won't harm Xiaoma, it's hard to guarantee that others will harm Xiaoma in order to curry favor with your Majesty. Therefore, we can only rely on your Majesty to issue an edict to restrain the subjects. If your Majesty agrees to this condition, Xiaoma will naturally risk her life to save His Highness the Crown Prince. If you don't agree, then Xiaoma's future will be worrying. Even if Xiaoma is willing to save His Highness the Crown Prince, I'm afraid that she will feel uneasy. Once there is a mistake, Xiaoma's cheap life is nothing. But if something bad happens to His Highness the Crown Prince, Lu Hinti, Ning Xiaoma's words were reasonable, and he couldn't refute it for a while. Moreover, the little girl was obviously going all out. If he forced her, it would be useless. In the end, Aiko's life was more important. Lu Hinti secretly gritted his teeth and agreed. Of course, he also said some high-sounding words. For example, he naturally kept his words. For Marquis Ning's face, he will give you a promise, and so on. Finally, according to Ning Xiaoma's words, he made an oath in front of all the officials. Once he made an oath, he would be under the supervision of God. It also involved the fate of the country. Lu Hinti wouldn't dare to violate it even if he was beaten to death. After he made the oath, in order to restrain the officials, he also said some ruthless words. For example, whoever violates my oath and seeks revenge on Ning Xiaoma will be killed without mercy. These words were said while looking at Ji Yunyao. His voice and expression were stern. He directly broke up Ji Yunyao's plan of revenge by force in the future. Although Ji Yunyao was very unwilling, she didn't dare to go against her imperial father on this matter. She glared at Ning Xiaoma, her eyes almost spitting fire. Ning Xiaoma responded with a faint smile, and then bowed deeply to Lu Hinti. Your Majesty, you can even agree to such a harsh condition as Xiaoma. You can even do this for the orphan daughter of a meritorious official. It can be seen that your Majesty's benevolence is unparalleled. You are a famous emperor throughout the ages. Xiaoma admires you. At this time, she had to flatter Lu Hinti and appease his heart that was about to explode. She had to save his face and give him a way out so that she could be safer. Her words were so sincere that Lu Hinti finally regained some of his dignity. His cold face finally showed signs of thawing. He nodded and said, "Can you start now?" Ning Xiaoma nodded. "Of course. But I still need your Majesty to prepare an extremely clean room as soon as possible, a medical officer to assist me, and 2 sets of thoroughly disinfected white robes." She listed a few more conditions in one breath. Lu Hinti agreed to them one by one. No matter what the imperial family prepared, they were incomparably fast. In less than half an hour, all the facilities that Ning Xiaoma requested were ready. Only the medical officer was left. Lu Hinti didn't know what kind of person she needed, so he let her choose among the kneeling medical officers. Ning Xiaoma wasn't polite. She tilted her head and looked at the few of them. Just as she was about to choose one that looked nimble, Divine Dr. Mo, who had been watching from the sidelines, suddenly said, "This commoner is willing to assist this young lady." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Chapter 338. What kind of person was Divine Dr. Mo? Even if a prince wanted to be his assistant, he would still reject the most awesome divine doctor without any hesitation. A person who did not put anyone in his eyes was actually willing to be the assistant of a little girl. This time, regardless of whether Ning Xiaoma succeeded or not, just based on this point alone, her name would spread far and wide. Lu Hinti could not ask for anything more. Just as he was about to agree, Ning Xiuema tilted her head and looked at Divine Dr. Mo. I need someone who is extremely nimble. This was the first time Divine Dr. Mo was suspected of not being nimble. He was simply furious and proudly said, my hands and feet are more nimble than any of the doctors here. Ning Xiuema smiled. The reason why Divine Dr. Mo is willing to lower himself to be Xiuema's assistant is because he wants to see how Xiuema will treat him, right? Divine Dr. Mo's thoughts were seen through by her words. He was startled for a moment and his face turned red. Could it be that you don't want others to see your treatment methods? Ning Xiuema shook her head. It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid of people stealing my medical methods. Since Divine Dr. Mo volunteered himself, Xiuema could not ask for anything more. This matter was settled just like that. While the imperial family was preparing those things, Ning Xiuema first watched Ji Yunyao being slapped. With her leisurely supervising from the side, the two women who were administering the punishment did not dare to let go. The slaps were especially crisp and clear. After 90 slaps, not to mention that Ji Yunyao's face was already swollen beyond recognition. After watching the punishment, Ning Xiuema quickly went to disinfect herself. She needed to operate on Ji Yunhuang, so her body had to be thoroughly disinfected as well. An hour later, Ning Xiuema was about to enter the cleansing room. Lu Hinti couldn't hold it in any longer and asked, Ning Xiuema, as far as we know, Huang Er's kindness to you can be said to be as heavy as a mountain. Your relationship with him is also very good. If we don't agree to your conditions, will you really not treat him? Ning Xiuema tilted her head to look at him and smiled. Even if your majesty doesn't agree, Xiuema will still treat him. But fortunately, his majesty is incomparably benevolent and has agreed. Lu Hinti. Ning Xiuema smiled and entered. Your majesty, please wait for my good news. Xiuema wants absolute silence. While I'm treating the crown prince, your majesty is not allowed to enter the room no matter what you hear. You're not allowed to send anyone to disturb me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Lu Hinti naturally agreed to this condition. He immediately ordered that no one was allowed to disturb Ning Xiuema before she came out, and no one was allowed to make any noise, to be on the safe side. Lu Hinti stationed elite soldiers outside the cleansing room. These elite soldiers were very nimble and walked very lightly. Not only did they guard the room like an iron bucket, but they also didn't make any noise that would disturb the people inside. Lu Hinti didn't leave either. He led the officials to personally sit in the Crown Prince's mansion's living room and quietly waited for the good news. As for the little Qilin, it contributed another Qilin scale. At this moment, it transformed into a blue cat and obeyed Ning Xiuema's instructions. Bored, it rested on an armchair. In just a few days, it had already lost 2 scales. It needed to recuperate well to slowly recover. Master had already promised to buy it ginseng after this matter was settled. Lu Hinti naturally noticed it. As an emperor, his information channels were naturally sensitive enough. He knew that the big blue cat in front of him was actually a Kirin beast. Kirins were auspicious beasts. If they could persuade it to return to the imperial family, then vast Sky Empire would have a greater say in this continent. Chapter 339. If they wanted to unify the country in the future, they could use it to rally the people of other countries. Kirin, how do you know Xiuema? Lu Hinti began to chat with it. Kirin yawned lazily. It was a rather proud mythological beast. Other than its master and who was it again? Kirin felt that it seemed to know someone, but it couldn't remember at the moment. It seemed that some part of its memory had been erased. Well, since it couldn't remember, it wouldn't think about it. Anyway, it only listened to its little master. As for other people, it couldn't be bothered. Therefore, it didn't even bother to open its eyes. It continued to bury its head and rest. Lu Hinti was rebuffed. Hey Kirin, His Majesty is the true dragon, the son of heaven. Even if you're a mythological beast, you still have to listen to the words of the true dragon, the son of heaven. An official couldn't help but speak up. The true dragon, the son of heaven? The whiskers on the side of the little blue cat's mouth curled up. It was just a title that the human emperor gave himself. Did it really think that he was a dragon? Dragons were noble mythological beasts. They didn't want to be the emperor of the human world. Besides, Kirins and dragons were on par. Even a true dragon couldn't be above a Kirin, let alone a dragon that humans gave themselves. At most, the emperors of the human world had the aura of a dragon bestowed by the heavens. They also had to rely on the power of the mountains and rivers. For example, their ancestors were buried in the dragon's den. It was a real mythological beast, Kirin. The fake dragon emperor of the human world was nothing. The little blue cat snorted. It wasn't clear whether it was mocking or disdainful, but it continued to lie there and sleep. Lu Hinti was a little embarrassed. It was the first time that he had been ignored so thoroughly. The officials saw that he didn't look too good. One of them hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Your Majesty, perhaps this is just a cat and not a Kirin. Look, it hasn't even developed spiritual intelligence. It can't understand your Majesty's words. He actually said that it hadn't developed spiritual intelligence. Kirin suddenly raised its head. Its round cat eyes stared at the blind official. It sneered and finally said, "You're the one who hasn't developed spiritual intelligence. Your whole family hasn't gained sentience." After spending a long time with Ningxiuema, it had unconsciously learned many of her speech patterns. Its voice was crisp and clear, like that of a 7 or 8-year-old child, clear and bright with a hint of majesty. As soon as it spoke, even though everyone was mentally prepared, they were still shocked. Everyone turned to look at Kirin. The minister was not angry at being scolded by it. He looked at it and said deliberately, "Just because you can talk doesn't mean you are a Kirin beast. There are cat demons in this world." After all, Kirin was still young and could not stand being provoked. It immediately jumped up and said, "You are the cat demon. Your whole family are cat demons." The minister's entire family was dragged into the conversation. The surrounding ministers could not hold back their laughter, causing the minister to feel slightly embarrassed. He sneered and said, "You say you're not a cat demon. What proof do you have?" Kirin looked at him with disdain. "You are indeed a mortal with the naked eye. You can't tell the difference between a demon and a god. I have auspicious celestial aura on me, not some demon aura." Then, "Kirin, how about you show us your auspicious celestial aura?" Lan Yufeng, the Chancellor of the Supreme Court, said with a smile. The little Qilin glanced at him. Lan Yufeng's appearance was handsome and refined, which was quite to its liking. It also heard that he was more polite, which made its heart feel more comfortable. Finally, it lazily stood up from the armchair and stretched. "What's so difficult about that? Today, I will show you my true form." Chapter 340. It jumped lightly onto the ground, and a blue light flashed like a wave. The little blue cat disappeared, and a majestic Kirin appeared in its place. It was about the size of half a horse, and its scales were sparkling under the sunlight. The 2 horns on its head were like dragon horns, and they looked like they were carved from green jade. Its eyes were beautiful almond-shaped, and its eyeballs were dark blue, like crystal-clear sapphires, shining with a glass-like luster. Its 2 whiskers trembled beside its lips, making it look even cuter. Its body seemed to be surrounded by a light blue luster, and with its movements, there seemed to be steam rising from it. It made people unable to look away. Although everyone had heard of Kirin beasts, this was the first time they had seen it in real life. Now that they saw it, their hearts were naturally shocked. Even Lu Hinti couldn't help but size it up. A strange light flashed in his eyes. This little Qilin was found in the territory of the vast Sky Empire, so it should belong to the imperial family. "Kirin, do you have a name?" Lu Hinti asked in a gentle voice, but secretly made a gesture to the guard beside him, indicating for him to find a few beast tamers. "Yes, my name is Little Apple." Kirin held its head high and chest out. Lu Hinti frowned. "This name is not mighty enough. How about I give you another name?" As long as it accepted his name, it meant that it had accepted the royal family's offer. Kirin was stunned, and its eyes suddenly widened. "This name was given to me by my mother. I don't want any other name." It actually had a mother? Didn't that mean that there were other Kirin beasts? If they caught other Kirin beasts, it would definitely shake the entire continent. maybe the other 4 countries would immediately bow down to them. Since it's like this, I won't help you change your name. Little Apple, where is your home? Lu Hinti's voice was even more amiable. My home is in the Kirin Holy Land. Kirin was still young, and it didn't know how sinister people could be, and it didn't know the twists and turns of people's hearts. When others asked, it spilled the beans. Qilin Holy Land? Lu Hinti and the other ministers looked at each other. This was the first time they had heard of this place. I wonder how many Qilins there are in this place. Your family must be quite big, right? Lu Hinti asked patiently. Of course, Kirin is a big family. There are several thousand of them. Kirin was proud, but a hint of sadness flashed through his eyes. It was a little homesick. Although the other Qilins in the family didn't treat it well, that place was its hometown after all. There were actually several thousand Qilins. Everyone's eyes lit up. Little Apple, do you miss home? If there's a chance, I'll send someone to send you home, okay? Lu Hinti didn't want to directly ask Kirin where the Holy Land of Kirin was. He was afraid that it would arouse the little guy's suspicion, so he asked in a roundabout way. As long as the little fellow agreed, would he be afraid that he wouldn't be able to find the Qilin Holy Land if he followed it? No need. Kirin turned back into a blue cat and nestled in the armchair. It looked lazy. I'll bring Master back in the future. It was almost like it was chased out. Even if it wanted to go back, it would have to wait until it was strong enough. It would be considered returning home in glory, and it didn't want to go back with its tail between its legs. The ministers looked at each other. It seemed that this Kirin wasn't so easy to deal with at this time. Everyone could see that Kirin's intelligence was equivalent to that of an 8 or 9-year-old child. Chapter 341. Although it was a little cautious, it was still not enough. Perhaps they could take a detour. Little Apple, I heard that even the chef in your little master's residence has run away. Are you hungry? Why don't you come to my palace and stay for a few days? My palace has everything you need. You can eat anything you want. Lu Hinti began to coax it. Kirin's eyes lit up, but then it shook its head. No need. Master will take me to eat a lot of delicious food. I won't eat in the residence. These days Ning Xuema took it to many restaurants. It ate a lot of delicious snacks and felt quite satisfied. How can the food outside compare to the food in the palace? The best chefs and the best food can't be eaten outside. Little Apple, why don't you go to the palace and have a look? The minister next to them also chimed in. Kirin was indeed a little tempted, but it was a little afraid of strangers. Besides, it was a mythical beast and didn't want to have too much contact with humans. It tilted its head and thought for a while, as if it suddenly thought of something. Its eyes lit up. Emperor, if my master cures your son, you will be greatly indebted to her. You should at least treat her to a meal, right? Lu Hinti. Of course, yes, that's it. Then, in order to thank her, you will definitely ask the chefs in the palace to cook the best food. Then I will go with my master. It was still the smartest to think of such a good idea. The little Qilin smiled and narrowed its eyes. Lu Xian Emperor was speechless. Unexpectedly, he was stumped by Little Apple's words. He coughed and said, Little Apple, the delicious food and fun things in the Imperial Palace can't be eaten in one day. Even if your master brought you into the Imperial Palace, you could only stay for half a day. Kirin was actually not very interested in fun things. It preferred to eat. It thought for a while and finally came up with another idea. Emperor, my master has been so kind to you. You should reward her with a lot of delicious food, right? Why don't you ask the chefs to cook all the delicious food? Little Apple, there are too many good things to eat. Even if the imperial chef made all of them, you wouldn't be able to finish them all. The minister at the side chimed in. If we can't finish it, we can pack it up. Kirin tilted its head. This was a new term that it had learned from Ning Xuema. When everyone understood the meaning of pack from Kirin, they could not help but laugh. Who in the world would pack up and leave at the royal banquet? Kirin was too naive. One of the ministers explained to Kirin why they couldn't pack the food. In the end, he said to Kirin, Little Apple, even if the emperor's benevolence allows your master to pack the food, many things should be eaten while they're hot. Also, they can easily spoil. Why don't you stay in the palace and let the royal family feed you? Kiran immediately shook his head. No. I won't leave my master. It didn't want to change masters. They didn't expect this Kiran to be so loyal. Everyone looked at each other again. One of them had a serious expression and said, Kiran, you know that everyone in the world is a minister of the emperor. As long as it's within the borders of the vast sky empire, whether it's a person or an object, it belongs to the royal family. Even if your master is also a subject of His Majesty, you should be even more of a member of the imperial family. It's your fortune that His Majesty has taken a liking to you. I believe that as long as His Majesty speaks to your master, she will definitely agree and obediently offer you to the imperial family. Kiran was stunned and its eyes widened. Master would give it away. She wouldn't want it. Chapter 342. Of course not. Master won't abandon me. Kiran's voice became sharp. I have a blood contract with Master. She won't abandon me. She won't give me away. Blood contract. There was no lack of knowledgeable officials who knew the conditions for establishing a blood contract. It must be presided over by someone whose psychokinesis has reached the heaven realm. In this continent, the only person whose psychokinesis has reached the heaven realm was the ancestor. Could it be the ancestor? That official asked Lu Hinti. Lu Hinti frowned and shook his head. When Ning Xuema entered the mountain, the ancestor was a guest in the palace. He didn't go out at all. It's impossible for him to come to Heavenly Book Mountain. Who else could it be? Could there be someone whose psychokinesis has reached the heaven realm in this world? Since this person was willing to establish a blood contract between Ning Xuema and Kiran, it was obvious that he saw Ning Xuema in a new light. Who could it be? Countless questions and possibilities flashed through everyone's minds. Naturally, there were also countless guesses. If such a person suddenly appeared in Heavenly Book Mountain, what kind of change would it bring to Chongkong country? They began to ask Kiran about that person's appearance and name. However, Kiran was even more confused than them. She said that she had already forgotten who that person was. She only remembered that she and her little master had established a blood contract under that person's supervision. Kiran's memories were erased. That Ning Xuema might also be the same. Obviously, that person didn't want to reveal their true identity. What was this person's goal? Everyone's mood became heavier. It was as if there was an invisible knife hanging over their heads. They couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Lu Hinti was even more apprehensive. He originally planned to wait for Ning Xuema to come out and force her to hand over Kiran. However, he didn't dare to act rashly now. Could that person be the deity who taught Ning Xuema medical skills? Lu Hinti began to think about this problem. This immortal being so fond of Ning Xuema, he didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing for vast sky country. Regardless of Ning Xuema's psychokinesis, her medical skills were indeed amazing. She also had the mythical beast Kiran by her side and a mysterious master. This kind of talent must be kept in vast sky country. If the monarch of vast sky empire wanted to keep a woman, there were many ways to do so. For example, making her a concubine, or bestowing a marriage to a prince or an official. But she was also a jinx. Lu Hinti did not dare to joke about his own life. He couldn't even bear to part with his own sons. His gaze fell on the ministers. Which of these ministers who had reached such a position were not shrewd? How could he not understand what Lu Hinti meant? All of them felt their hearts skip a beat. No one wanted to be cannon fodder, not even their own sons. Ministers, I heard that the young master of your family is suave and romantic, and his literary talent is outstanding. Your Majesty, my son's body is weak, he is a bit of a playboy. Miss Ning is not inferior to men. She won't take a fancy to my son. Ministers knelt down. Don't worry, I have already promised Xuema that I won't bestow a marriage to her. However, it's good for young people to play together more. Lu Hinti had his own plans. He smiled faintly and began to plan in his heart. If Ning Xuema didn't allow him to bestow a marriage, then he would simply find a way to hold a blind date for her, and let all the young talents in the country participate. He didn't believe that the little girl's heart would not be moved. As long as she liked someone, it would be easy to handle. Chapter 343. He couldn't force Ning Xiuema, but why couldn't he force those talented youths? For a woman, her husband's family was her final destination. As long as she married someone from Chongkong Empire, then she would be considered as truly staying. Ning Xiuema didn't expect that Lu Hinti had already started to plan for her marriage. At this moment, she was busy in the clean room. This room was completely arranged according to her requirements. A narrow bed without a bed curtain was used as the operating table. A huge luminous pearl was hung above her head. Although it wasn't as bright as the magnesium light in the operating room of a modern hospital, it was still able to illuminate the fine pores on a person's body. Furthermore, Ning Xiuema had cultivated her psychokinesis, so her eyesight was exceptionally good. Therefore, even without modern equipment, she was still able to see clearly. Divine Dr. Mo looked at Ning Xiuema with a complicated gaze. He had never seen anyone treat a patient like this before. Obviously, it was only his chest that was injured, but Ning Xiuema ordered him to strip Ji Yunhuang naked. She even used strong alcohol to thoroughly wipe his entire body. After that, she covered the crown prince's lower body with a piece of white cloth, which finally covered some of the spring scenery. When he was doing all this for the crown prince, she didn't retreat out of embarrassment. Instead, she frequently asked him to wipe the places that he hadn't wiped yet, fearing that even a little bit would be left out. Throughout the entire process, her expression was calm. The crown prince's well-built body didn't cause any fluctuations in her emotions. The way she looked at the crown prince was like a doctor looking at a patient. When all the preparations were done, Ning Xiuema then approached the small bed. She stretched out her finger and pressed on the already unconscious Ji Yunhuang's acupuncture point. Then she picked up a shiny knife and scissors. Without even blinking, she cut open Ji Yunhuang's chest. Even the experienced and knowledgeable divine Dr. Mo was shocked by this scene. He forced himself to not open his mouth to ask. Ning Xiuema had instructed him in advance that while she was treating Ji Yunhuang, he was not allowed to speak and only listen to her instructions. Both of them were wearing snow-white masks sewn by the emperor according to Ning Xiuema's request. Divine Dr. Mo looked at Ning Xiuema, who only revealed a pair of large eyes, and had a misconception that this girl was actually not human. Heart surgery was extremely difficult to perform. Fortunately, Ning Xiuema had done a few cases in her previous life. Although the equipment here was a little shabby, she could find something else to replace it. Furthermore, she possessed the healing psychokinesis, so she could stop the bleeding in time and raise Ji Yunhuang's vitality in time. Furthermore, Ji Yunhuang's body was strong and his vitality was strong. This surgery was daunting but not dangerous. Ji Yunhuang was unconscious the entire time. He lay there motionless like a zombie, saving Ning Xiuema a lot of trouble. Unknowingly, 3 hours had passed and the surgery was finally coming to an end. Ning Xiuema began to carefully sew up layer by layer. When she sewed up the outermost layer of the epidermis, the unconscious Ji Yunhuang's finger suddenly moved. His thin lips opened and closed as he spat out 2 words, Xiuema. Although these 2 words were very vague, Ning Xiuema could still hear them clearly. Her finger paused and was almost pricked by the thin silver needle. Divine Dr. Mo's hand was as fast as lightning. He tapped on Ji Yunhuang's body, and the awakened Ji Yunhuang fainted again. Ning Xiuema glanced at Divine Dr. Mo. He can't wake up right now. Divine Dr. Mo explained. Ning Xiuema nodded slightly. It seemed like this Divine Dr. Mo was not someone who could see through things easily. Chapter 344. Her suturing skills were very good, and it was obvious that she was a veteran. Divine Dr. Mo looked at her with a complicated gaze. This kind of medical skill was not something that could be found in this era. Moreover, her technique was very experienced, so it was obvious that this was not her first time performing this kind of surgery. Could it be that she was self-taught since she was born? When Ning Xiuema fed Ji Yunhuang a piece of sparkling blue thing, the entire surgery was officially completed. After 10 hours of surgery, even though Ning Xiuema's physical strength was not bad, she still felt extremely tired. She moved her hands and feet, and went to the side to wash her hands. Then, she turned around to look at Ji Yunhuang. The Qilin armor was indeed a divine item. His wound was already showing signs of healing. She believed that not long after, even the scar would not be left behind. It would not destroy the beauty of the crown prince's perfect chest. Although his face was slightly pale, his breathing was much more stable than before. Divine Dr. Mo took his pulse again. After carefully looking at it, he looked at Ning Xuema with disbelief in his eyes. Ji Yunhuang's heart was actually connected perfectly. Furthermore, it was flawless. His heartbeat was strong, and it was not like before when it seemed to be breaking and stopping. Furthermore, the goo poison could no longer be detected. It was obvious that she had already removed it. Ning Xuema yawned. Damn it, she was so tired. It had been a long time since she had performed this kind of surgery. She looked out of the window and saw that it was already the morning of the second day. When Ning Xuema walked out of the door, the little eunuch who was waiting outside the door had already rushed to report to the emperor. The emperor led a group of officials and rushed over like a gust of wind. Master! Kiran ran especially fast and almost jumped into Ning Xuema's embrace. Just now, its master had ordered it not to disturb her, so it did not dare to use its telepathy to ask its master about the situation. Xuema, how is Huang? Lu Hinti's voice was also trembling. Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Ning Xuema replied simply. She patted Kiran's head and said, Good girl, turn back into your original form and carry me back. She needed a good rest. Lu Hinti's heart, which had been hanging in the air for a long time, finally settled down. He didn't have time to talk to Ning Xuema, and wanted to go in. Your Majesty, he can't see anyone yet. If you go in, you'll bring the germs with you. I will call on him at this hour tomorrow. I've already told Divine Dr. Mo all the precautions. I'm tired, so I'll head back first. Ning Xuema had already mounted Kiran's body. Divine Dr. Mo poked half of his body out of the clean room and nodded towards Lu Hinti, proving that what Ning Xuema said was true. Lu Hinti was finally relieved and immediately ordered, Men, prepare a palanquin with 8 carriers and send Miss Ning back to the residence. I will reward you handsomely later. Ning Xuema was carried back to Marquis Jingyuan's residence in a palanquin with 8 carriers. Along the way, the sound of gongs and gongs was heard. It was early in the morning, so it attracted the attention of many commoners. Lu Henti was very generous and gave her several chests as a reward, which followed behind the palanquin. Ever since Ning Xuema had transmigrated, she had been frequently unlucky. If she wasn't being chased, she was being forced to marry. And then she was being despised. Now, she could finally hold her head up high. She felt that her bad luck had finally passed, and now the good times had come. She had sharp eyes and ears now. Although the discussions outside were chaotic, they could not escape her ears. She still heard a few words. These commoners' discussions were not very creative. They were all kinds of envious, puzzled, and felt that it was inconceivable. Chapter 345. The conversation between two of them reached her ears, causing her to open her slightly closed eyes. This Marquis Jingyuan's daughter can be considered as a salted fish turning over a new leaf today. The reward for this banquet is so much. From today onwards, she won't have to worry about wearing gold and silver anymore. Whoever marries her, it will also be worth it. Marry her? Brother Lu, you must be joking. She is the ancestor and great master Han Shanhua personally called her a jinx. Whoever marries her will jinx her. Do you still want your little life after marrying her? Actually, even if she is a jinx, so what? I heard that she is quite beautiful, has great medical skills, and also has money. If such a woman marries home, even if she jinxes me to death, I would be willing. Haha, Brother Lu, don't tell me you are tempted by her? You want to marry her so that you won't have to struggle for a few decades? That's right, your Lu clan is already in decline. If you marry her, get her family property, and let the entire Lu clan live a good life, sacrificing you would be worth it. I am not doing this for her family property. I just feel that she is quite pitiful. If no one wants her, I can reluctantly do it. Ning Xuema pulled open the curtain of the sedan chair, revealing half of her face, and swept a glance at the two people. They were two passing scholars. At this moment, they were standing in the crowd commenting on the sedan chair. Suddenly, they saw half of Ning Xuema's face. Their hearts trembled, and half of their bodies went limp. This little girl was really beautiful, especially when she smiled at them. "Brother Lu, she is looking at me." "Brother Zhang, you are mistaken. She is clearly looking at me." The two people suddenly felt that if they could marry such a girl, even if they died immediately, it would be worth it. The two people returned Ning Xuema's smile one after another. Ning Xuema stretched out her snow-white jade-like hand and lightly flicked her fingertips. The two people felt their palms go numb. They lowered their heads to look, and unexpectedly, there were two melon seed shells lying in their palms, melon seed shells thrown by the beauty. The beauty specifically threw melon seed shells at them. Was she interested in them? The two of them held the melon seed shells tightly, as if they were holding some kind of treasure. The corners of Ning Xuema's lips curled up slightly. The two of them would soon discover that the melon seed shell wasn't an ordinary melon seed shell. Instead, it had been added with something else. They would pay the price for talking too much today. Their bodies would itch for 7 or 8 days. She was about to put down the curtain when she suddenly sensed something. Her gaze turned towards the second floor of a small, elegant building by the street. There was a guardrail on the second floor, and a man was sitting by the railing. He was clearly on the second floor, not too far away, but Ning Xuema couldn't see his face clearly. She could only see his azure robe fluttering in the breeze. Beside him was a small red clay stove. On top of the stove was a small odd-looking flask. White mist was rising from the flask, enveloping half of the man's figure in the faint mist. Green ant new fermented wine, red clay small stove, night wishes for snow, can you drink a cup? When Ning Xuema saw him, this ancient poem immediately appeared in her mind. She only felt that this poem matched this person very well. Although it was the beginning of autumn, and the autumn tiger was raging, it definitely wouldn't snow. However, that person sat there, with the bustling world behind him, and he seemed to be isolated from the world. He was cold and indifferent, untainted by the snow and frost of the world. Although that person only had a silhouette, Ning Xuema still recognized him. Han Shangyue, the art sage who threw her out of the window and even gave her the title of Jinx. Why was this bastard here? Chapter 346. Strange, wherever he appeared, there would always be a crowd. How come no one noticed him this time when he was just sitting there? Looking at his carefree appearance, it didn't seem like he was in a busy city, but more like he was in a spiritual mountain. Ning Xuema couldn't help but look at him a few more times. In her heart, she didn't have any thoughts of revenge. This person's martial arts were too unpredictable. With her current ability, provoking him would be seeking death. Han Shangyue seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head slightly and looked at her. Their gazes collided in the middle of this bustling street. Ning Xuema's hair stood on end, and a chill ran down her spine. She couldn't help but shiver. She couldn't see his eyes clearly, but strangely, she could feel his gaze on her. His invisible gaze swept over her body. His gaze felt like it was being soaked in ice water. So cold. This person's gaze gave her the same feeling as when the ancestor looked at her that day. Ning Xuema's heart skipped a beat. She didn't want to have anything to do with this person. She put down the curtain and sat down to meditate. "Master, I saw Han Shangyue who called you a jinx." Kiran's voice sounded in her heart. "Don't pay attention to him," Ning Xuema ordered. She and Han Shangyue weren't from the same world. She wouldn't provoke him if she could. The sedan arrived at the entrance of the residence. Old Zhong was waiting at the entrance. When he saw Ning Xuema get off the sedan, he hurriedly welcomed her. "Master." His little master was finally back. He had been worried for the whole day. Ning Xuema nodded. Her gaze suddenly fell on the person behind Uncle Zhong. He was 14 or 15 years old. He had a baby face. His body was tall and straight like bamboo. His temperament was cold. There was a broken sword hanging from his waist. This was the person she saved in Tianshu Mountain. "He is?" Ning Xuema asked. Uncle Zhong couldn't hide his joy. "Master, he is this old servant's new bodyguard." His martial arts are not bad. Ning Xiuema looked at his pale face. Did he come here to repay a debt of gratitude? Or did he have other motives? His injuries healed quickly. The young man bowed slightly to her, but didn't say anything. Ning Xiuema did not expose him for the time being. This time, Lihin Ti had not only rewarded her with some jewelry and money, he had also rewarded her with 6 imperial guards, 2 maids, 2 cooks, and even a gardener. These people had naturally heard of Ning Xiuema's reputation of being a jinx. They were also afraid of being cursed by her. However, they could not disobey the emperor's orders. If they did not come, they would die immediately. Therefore, no matter how unwilling they were, they had to follow along. Ning Xiuema left these people to old Zhong. She went in to take a shower, had breakfast, and then dove into the bedroom to sleep for a whole day. By the time she woke up, it was already sunset. Old Zhong sent someone to bring her dinner. As expected of an imperial chef sent by the inner palace, the food he made looked, smelled, and tasted good. After Ning Xiuema and Kiran ate heartily, a maid came to clear away the leftover food. Kiran ate until its mouth was covered in oil. It was also very satisfied. It patted its stomach and said, "This imperial chef's food is really good. No wonder the old emperor used this to tempt me." Ning Xiuema looked at it. "Tempt you?" "Yes, master." The little Qilin's memory was quite good, so it told her everything that the old emperor and the civil and military officials had said to it at that time. Chapter 347. Ning Xiuema sneered in her heart. It seemed that Lihin Ti had taken a fancy to Kiran again. He had almost taken Kiran's family property. If he didn't know that she had a blood contract with Kiran, the old emperor would have shamelessly asked her for it, right? Little Apple, people's hearts are sinister. If you don't want your family to be exterminated, you must never tell anyone where your hometown is. You must never reveal even the slightest bit. Do you hear me? Once the news of Kiran's holy land was completely leaked, it would bring endless carnage to that place. Kiran nodded. I know. That year, that big brother also said the same thing. So it still had this bit of precaution. Ning Xiuema let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, she recalled the prince sealed inside the stone spirit's stomach. It seemed that the prince's character wasn't bad. He was also the ancestor's disciple, but he was much stronger than that Yi Qingwan. She didn't know why, but she felt that she had forgotten something. Little Apple who helped us set our blood contract. She felt that there was another person who had been in the stone spirit's stomach with her. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't remember who it was. Kiran blankly shook its head. I forgot. I only remember that it was an expert. Of course it was an expert. Otherwise, how could they set up a blood contract that only Heaven Realm cultivators could set up? What kind of expert? Do you still remember what he looked like? Kiran shook its head. I don't remember. She and Kiran both lost their memories of that expert at the same time. Did that expert erase her and Kiran's memories before he left? Ning Xiuema couldn't figure it out no matter how much she thought about it, so she simply stopped thinking about it. If that expert really wanted to harm her, she wouldn't be able to avoid it, so it was better to deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. She gave Kiran a few more instructions, then waved her hand to let it go out and play by itself. She also walked out of the door. She discovered that she had only slept for a day, but the Marquis's mansion had already changed its appearance. The servants that the old emperor had bestowed upon her were already performing their duties. Some were weeding, some were patrolling, and some were sweeping. Ning Xiuema took a stroll around the Marquis's mansion. No matter where she went, everything was in order. Everyone was doing their own thing. Especially those few imperial guards, some were patrolling, some were following behind her from afar, and some were resting. Their arrangement was very methodical. Ning Xiuema's heart skipped a beat. She called old Zhong over. Uncle Zhong, who arranged for these people? Master, it's the newcomer Shiju. He really has some skills. In half a day he managed to tame these thorny guards. Uncle Zhong's tone was full of praise for the young man. This servant that delivered itself to his doorstep was too awesome. Although these imperial bodyguards were not top-notch experts, Their martial arts skills were not low. Furthermore, he felt that he was from the inner palace, so he refused to submit to old Zhong's orders after coming here. They didn't dare to disobey the emperor's orders, but they still didn't put old Zhong in their eyes. There were also those imperial chefs, palace maids, and gardeners. Which one of them was easy to deal with? After entering the Marquis's mansion, they didn't want to do anything at all. They all acted as if they were begging for favors, and they even laughed at old Zhong who wanted to divide the work for them. Of course, they looked down on the newly arrived half-grown child, Shiju. In the end, Shiju challenged the most arrogant and unruly imperial bodyguard. He beat that imperial bodyguard up 4 or 5 times in a row and finally convinced him. Thus, many of the thorny guards became well-behaved and obediently followed the orders. Chapter 348. It had to be said that Shiju was a very talented leader. In just one day, he was able to get Marquis Jingyuan's residence on the right track. Everyone was doing their own thing without any chaos. Talent. This child was a talent. Uncle Zhong's mouth kept praising him. Ning Xuema pondered for a moment before instructing Uncle Zhong to call the talented youth into her hall. After a moment, the youth walked in with large strides and bowed to Ning Xuema. Ning Xuema sized him up. The youth's posture was tall and straight like a jade tree. He had a handsome but slightly pale baby face. Although his appearance was 80% similar to number 2's, the 2's temperament was not the same. Number 2 was calm and straightforward, but this youth was like a smooth and insightful sword. Although his appearance did not reveal anything, there was a faint elegant and noble air about him. It seemed that his background was not ordinary. Ning Xuema's gaze fell on the treasured sword at his waist. The old scabbard did not have anything special about it. Even the treasured sword of a random warrior on the street looked much more expensive than this one. Number 2's nickname was Stone, a very common name. And this youth was called Shiju, a rather elegant and imposing name. Could it be that they were not related by blood? How did you find this place? Ning Xuema bluntly asked. As long as I have the heart, it is not difficult to find you. Shiju's voice was very calm. The youth was 14 or 15 years old, and his voice was in the stage of puberty. It was slightly hoarse and not very clear. Why are you looking for me? Ning Xuemo raised her eyebrows. The youth was silent for a moment before replying with 2 words. To repay a debt of gratitude. I already said at that time that saving you was just a matter of convenience. There is no need for you to repay me. Whether you need it or not is your business. If I want to repay you, that is my business. I don't like to owe people favors. The youth replied straightforwardly. Ning Xuema looked at him again. Since you found me, you should have heard about me. I am a jinx and will jinx the people around me. Aren't you afraid of being jinxed by me? There is no such thing as fortune-telling. Moreover, if it were not for you, I would have died long ago. What jinx would I be afraid of? Well, it was rare to meet someone who was not afraid of her. Can you tell me about your family background? My Marquis Jingyuan's mansion does not accept people of unknown origins. Ning Xuema was still somewhat curious about his identity. The young man was silent for a moment before he said, Forgive me for being unable to speak of my family background. However, I can guarantee that my family background is absolutely clean, and I will not harm you in any way. All right, since it was something that was hard to say, she wouldn't pursue the matter any further. She didn't really care if this young man had ulterior motives for staying by her side. After all, there were many people around her who had ulterior motives for her, so it didn't matter if he was one more. What's more, this young man's eyes were calm and pure. He didn't look like a cunning person. On this point, Ning Xuema believed that she had some ability to judge people. It was not easy to make a mistake. From today onwards, you will be my personal bodyguard. You will be wherever I am. Ning Xuema decided to keep him by her side for observation. All right. The young man responded. He didn't say anything else as he turned around and left. The corners of Ning Xuema's lips slightly rose. This young man shouldn't be a person who was under someone else. He definitely wasn't a servant. Otherwise he would have answered yes and not all right. What kind of identity would he have? She yawned. Forget it, who cares what his identity is? As long as he doesn't hinder her from scheming against him. Chapter 349. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During this half a month, Ning Xuema lived quite comfortably. In order to win her over, Lu Hinti specially let her inherit the title of Marquis Jingyuan. This was the first time a woman was conferred the title of Marquis in Chongkong country. Naturally, it caused a lot of discussion among the people. If this was in the modern era, it would be the same as her being on the entertainment headlines, becoming the topic of conversation after meals. More and more people wandered around her residence, wanting to see this legendary figure. These days, Marquis Jingyuan's residence was very peaceful. Those imperial bodyguards, palace maids, cooks, each and every one of them was living a healthy life, without any signs of being a jinx. In the beginning, every time Ning Xuema went out, the people who were afraid of being tainted by her bad luck would avoid her. It was even more effective than the officials sounding the gong to clear the way. But later on, when people saw that the people in Marquis Jingyuan's residence did not have any abnormalities, and even the senile chief steward became more energetic as he lived, they felt that Ning Xuema's heavenly jinx, ability to jinx people was not that high, and was not that scary. Gradually they stopped avoiding her. Half a month later, Ji Yunhuang's injuries were already half healed, and he could finally get out of bed and walk. Ignoring the eunuchs and imperial bodyguards who tried to stop him, he sat in a sedan chair and personally went to Marquis Jingyuan's residence to express his thanks and congratulate Ning Xuema on being conferred the title of Marquis. In order to receive this crown prince, Marquis Jingyuan's residence naturally became lively again. Ning Xuema had just come out of the training room when she heard that Ji Yunhuang had come to visit, so she immediately went out to meet him. "Your Highness, it is not suitable for you to walk around right now," Ning Xuema said as soon as she saw Ji Yunhuang. While sizing up his complexion, she could not help but say that the imperial family took good care of him. In just half a month, Ji Yunhuang no longer needed anyone to support him. Other than his complexion being a little pale and his body being a little thin, there was not much of a sickly appearance. Standing there, he was elegant and handsome, with a noble and elegant bearing. That faint sickly appearance added a sense of beauty to him. His complexion looked good. It seemed that his injuries had healed much faster than she had imagined. "Xuema, you never came to see me, so I came to see you." Ji Yunhuang looked at her with a smile, and there seemed to be waves of light surging in his eyes. Ning Xuema coughed. "Your Highness, you know that I'm a jinx. Your Highness is still sick. I don't want to jinx you. Life and death are decreed by fate. I don't care about this." Ji Yunhuang sighed as he stared at her. "If it weren't for you, I would have died half a month ago." His gaze was like water, faintly flowing with affection. Ning Xuema felt her hair stand on end from his gaze. She smiled. "Your Highness naturally won't mind, but I'm afraid that other people will." After chatting with Ji Yunhuang for a while, she began to chase him away. "That's enough. Your Highness's current condition is not suitable for you to run around and work so hard. It's better for you to return and recuperate. Lei Lu, help His Highness the Crown Prince back." Without any explanation, he sent Ji Yunhuang away. The news of His Highness the Crown Prince personally coming to express his gratitude spread like wildfire in the capital. As a result, people felt even more strongly that Ning Xuema's ability as a jinx was actually quite lacking. From the start, she wasn't that scary. Ning Xuema discovered that among the idle people strolling around her residence, there were a few young men who were trying to flirt with her. These people undoubtedly wanted to have a romantic encounter here, to have a chance encounter with a beautiful woman. However, every time Ning Xuema went out, there would be an expert by her side to protect her. Those people simply could not get close to her. Chapter 350. For example, right now, Ning Xuema was choosing a bracelet in a jewelry store. She took a fancy to a dark green bracelet, and was about to take out her silver to pay for it. A hand reached out from the side and a flirtatious voice said, "Shopkeeper, this is the banknote. I'll buy this bracelet for this lady." Ning Xiuema turned her head and saw a rather sturdy young man dressed in a flirtatious manner. He was waving a fan and looking at her with a smile. Ning Xiuema tilted her head and asked, "Why are you paying for me?" "Beautiful jade is just right for a beauty. This bracelet is perfect for a lady." That man was dazzled by Ning Xiuema's beautiful face and saw her innocent look. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. He couldn't help but want to touch her. He held the bracelet in one hand and pulled Ning Xiuema's hand with the other. Come, let me put it on for you." Before his wolf claws could touch the beauty's soft body, his body was lifted up. Before he could scream, his butt was kicked and he flew out of the store. With a bang, he fell flat on his face. He was dizzy and was about to get up when a foot stepped on his stomach. A handsome young man in green coldly looked at him and said, "She's not someone you can provoke. If you know what's good for you, get lost." That sturdy young man left dejectedly under the watchful eyes of the crowd. The other men who wanted to strike up a conversation with Ning Xiuema couldn't help but shrink their necks. They retreated and didn't dare to show their faces again. Ning Xiuema walked out and glanced at the crowd who didn't dare to come closer. She shook her head lightly and said half-jokingly, "Shijue, you've chased away all my suitors. You know it's not easy for a lone star to meet a suitor." Shijue was expressionless and only said, "They're not worthy of you." Ning Xiuema sighed. "I'm afraid I won't be able to get married if I have such a fierce man by my side." She was just casually saying it. After she finished speaking, she took 2 steps forward, but did not see Shiju following her. She curiously turned her head and saw him standing there, looking at her with his lips slightly pursed. "What happened? You won't be unable to get married." Shiju's voice was light but powerful. He added, "I can marry you." Ning Xiuema staggered and laughed. "That's good. If I can't get married in the future, I'll marry you." He casually made a joke and turned around to walk forward. Shijue stood on the long street and looked at her back with a complicated gaze. He actually blurted out those words, but a strange feeling rose in his heart after he said it. While he was distracted, Ning Xiuema had already walked far away. He was about to rush over when he suddenly sensed something and turned his head to look at a pavilion on the side of the street. A young man stood in the pavilion. His hair was as black as ink, and he was wearing a wide robe with large sleeves. There was a painting of mountains and rivers on his sky-blue robe. As the breeze blew, there seemed to be clouds and mist flowing between the mountains and rivers. The strange thing was that the other party didn't wear a mask, but he couldn't see his face clearly. He only felt that the person was very handsome, and his body seemed to be shrouded in clouds and mist. He didn't seem like a person of this world. In front of that person was a chessboard with chess pieces scattered all over it. It seemed like he was playing chess with someone. However, he couldn't see who was opposite him. It seemed like he was playing chess with himself. That person lightly glanced at him. Shiju suddenly quivered and shivered. This person's gaze was so cold. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was like 1,000 years of ice and snow. He was almost frozen on the spot. Chapter 351. Shijue, why are you in a daze? Keep up. Ning Xiuema saw that he didn't catch up and couldn't help but call out to him. Shijue seemed to have woken up from a dream and hurriedly caught up. He was 1 step behind Ning Xiuema. What were you looking at just now? Why are you in a daze? Ning Xiuema was puzzled. Shiju usually had the appearance of a mature young man. It was rare to see him lose himself in thought. I was looking at that person. He's a little strange. Shijue replied and couldn't help but look in that direction again. Strange person? Ning Xiuema followed his gaze but didn't see anything. What strange person? Why don't I see him? She turned her head and found that Shijue was looking in that direction with his eyes wide open in disbelief. He's gone. The quaint pavilion and the picturesque young man had disappeared without a trace in an instant. There was only one clothing store in that direction, and there were many people bustling in front of it. Could it be that he was seeing things? Shijue couldn't help but rub his eyes and look in that direction again. He still didn't see that person. He was bewildered. It was broad daylight. Could it be that he saw a ghost? Or was it a mirage? What did you see? Ning Xuema was curious. There weren't many things that could make Shijue lose his composure. Shijue said 2 words and stopped. Recently, he had been practicing martial arts a little diligently. Maybe he was seeing things. He didn't want to say it and make Ning Xuema worry. Nothing. I'm probably a little nervous and my eyes are playing tricks on me. Ning Xuema looked at him suspiciously and didn't ask any more questions. This child's mouth was very tight. If he didn't want to say something, even if you used a hammer, you wouldn't be able to pry it open. Besides, she wasn't interested in strange people. Since she came to this world, she had met enough strange people and was already used to it. Okay, let's go. Ning Xuema looked up at the sky. It was almost noon. Little Apple, what do you want to eat today? She asked the little blue cat on her shoulder. The little blue cat's eyes immediately widened in excitement. Let's go to the Drunken Immortal Restaurant's roast duck today. The food at the Drunken Immortal Restaurant was indeed very good. Ning Xuema nodded and headed towards the restaurant. The blue sea and the rolling white clouds. There was a lush island in the middle of the sea. Faint clouds and mist gathered and dispersed around the island, making the island appear and disappear from time to time. It was like the legendary Fangjiang Yingtai. Strange flowers and trees were everywhere on the island. In the shade of the green trees, there were several places with overhanging eaves and arches. Obviously, there were people living there. There was a small pavilion at the highest point of the immortal island. The gazebo was agarwood colored, ancient and full of ancient charm. There were 3 people sitting in the pagoda. 2 people played Go while the other watched from the side. Of the 2 people playing Go, the person on the left had black hair that was like satin. It was scattered behind him, almost reaching the ground. He was wearing a sky blue robe with a faint painting of mountains and rivers on it. His appearance was very clear, and he was holding a white Go piece in his right hand. There was also a man sitting opposite him. He was dressed in a wide moon-colored robe. His eyes were charming and his appearance was stunning. His right hand was lazily waving a fan with a beautiful woman drawn on it. He looked very charming and unrestrained. The person watching from the side was a beautiful woman. She was dressed in a snow-white veil, and had long hair like seaweed. There was a soft flower branch casually tied up on her head. There were little yellow flowers on the flower branch that were about to bloom. Her pair of watery eyes seemed to ripple like a lake when they turned. She was also holding a round fan in her hand. She was sitting on the side and watching the game with a smile on her face. Chapter 352. Clouds swirled around their feet, making the 3 of them look like they were in a painting. Bang! A black piece fell and blocked a large number of white pieces. The man with the fan smiled proudly and said, "Dizwa, thank you for letting me win. I'm going to win this round." The man opposite him seemed to have been distracted, but this voice pulled him back to reality. He glanced at the chessboard and saw that the black pieces were strong while the white pieces were weak. The situation was indeed unfavorable for him. "Dizwa, you seem to be absent-minded just now. What were you thinking about?" The fan brother knocked on the chessboard with his fan with a gossipy expression. "What do you think?" The man called Dizwa calmly continued to think about his next move, and casually placed another piece. "I saw that you used a microscopic technique to look at a place of mortals. What did you see?" The fan brother was clearly very observant. He also placed a piece. Since victory was already in his hands, he played more casually. The woman watching from the side also looked at Dizwa with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "Yes, Dizwa. The place you opened looked like the capital of the vast Sky Empire. Didn't you just come back from there? Could it be that there is something strange in that empire?" She also took a look. Aside from the buildings, she only saw a young man in green. Take a guess. Dizwa clearly didn't want to say more. "You weren't looking at a little girl, right? Did Dizwa's peach blossom blossom?" The fan brother closed his fan. "Brother Rongyu, don't make wild guesses. There was no woman in that place of mortals, but there was a young man." The woman retorted. The man called Brother Rongyu sized up the calm Dizwa and revealed a surprised expression. "Are you kidding me? Dizwa actually took a fancy to a young man? Cut sleeve." Bang! The white piece fell, And Dee's indifferent voice rang out. Even if you are cut sleeve, I am not cut sleeve. You lose. Brother Rongyu lowered his head and saw that the situation on the chessboard had taken a sharp turn. He had lost his territory and was unable to reverse the situation. Brother Rongyu was speechless. His heart ached as he watched the Emperor's throne leisurely pick up the jasper gourd and take away another one of his treasured immortal pills. Hey, this round doesn't count. You cheated and deliberately kept me in suspense to attract my attention. It doesn't count, it doesn't count. Return the immortal pill to me first. Brother Rongyu extended his hand towards Deezwa. Deezwa simply ignored him and tapped the chessboard with his finger. Still want to play? Your Majesty. Of course. Brother Rongyu said. I have to win the elixir back. The corner of Deezwa's mouth twitched, but he didn't comment. The two continued to play chess. Halfway down, Deezwa absent-mindedly asked. Tianlan, how many wind fruits do you have left? What are you doing? Rongyu Tianlan cast a sidelong glance at him. You've used up more than half of the Tianfeng fruits that I've accumulated for 100 years. Now that Deezwa's power has recovered, you don't need to worry about my fruits anymore, right? Deezwa gently tapped the chessboard and said, the heavenly wind fruit will spoil if left out for too long. So Deezwa came here to waste so many of my fruits for my own good? You're afraid that I won't be able to finish them and will waste them? Rongyu Tianlan gritted his teeth. Tianlan, your IQ has increased a lot. Deezwa praised him. The girl next to him looked at Rongyu Tianlan's dark face and laughed. Deezwa is right. Tianlan, the three of us have always been on the same page. Since your fruits are good medicine for Deezwa's recovery, there's no harm in contributing a few. In any case, you won't be able to finish them. Chapter 353. Rongyu Tianlan glanced at the girl and said, I knew you were biased toward him. Actually, a few fruits are nothing. I am just curious as to why Deezwa suddenly became so weak. What happened to you in vast Sky Nation? This is the first time this has happened, so I am very curious. Anyway, Deezwa, since I've contributed so many fruits, can you help me clear up my doubts? I have been bored for almost a month now. The girl's bright eyes also fell on Deezwa's face. She clearly wanted to know. Deezwa didn't raise his head. He continued to look at the chessboard and asked indifferently, Do you really want to know? The other two nodded. Their appetites had been whetted. I am not telling you. Deezwa's words extinguished their little flame of gossip. Bang! Deezwa placed a white chess piece and decided the game. Rongyu Tianlan, you have lost again. Rongyu Tianlan was speechless. His attention was diverted again. This two-faced Deezwa took advantage of his weakness again. He had been tricked. Therefore, he could only watch as the last spirit pill in his jade gourd was taken away by Deezwa. Rongyu Tianlan closed his fan and said, Come, let's play another game. This time, no matter what Deezwa said, he wouldn't be distracted. Deezwa waved his sleeve and the chessboard disappeared. He lazily stood up and said, You lose 9 out of 10 games. You should practice your chess skills again. Rongyu Tianlan was speechless. Deezwa, can you be more two-faced? Aren't the children's chess skills pretty good? It's just that you are frequently cheating today. I have stayed here for so long. It is time for me to leave. Deezwa slowly walked down from the pavilion, winning all his treasures and then leaving just like that. This really made him feel uncomfortable. Deezwa, out of consideration for the loss of so many spirit pills, can you tell me what you were looking at earlier? Rongyu Tianlan's gossipy cells hadn't been extinguished. Deezwa turned around and glanced at him. For the first time he explained, I found a talent. Wow, there was almost no one who could be called a talent by this arrogant Deezwa. It could be said to be a miracle. Rongyu Tianlan's eyes lit up. Talent? What kind of talent? Deezwa, is that the green-clothed youth from before? The young girl also asked. Deezwa didn't answer and only said, He can be considered an all-rounder. What a pity. He seemed to have thought of something, and a faint light flickered in his eyes. To be called an all-rounder by Deezwa, how shocking was he? Rongyu Ishinlan couldn't help but ask, What's a pity? Deezwa didn't say anything else and only said, You can guess for yourself. Dizwa, can you be any more shameless? Rangyu Ishinlin was defeated by Dizwa. How could she leave him hanging like this? You just found out? Dizwa leisurely replied. He walked under a fruit tree and waved his sleeve, causing the last fruit on the tree to fall into his sleeve. He then added, I can be even more shameless. Rangyu Ishinlin. Dizwa's figure gradually disappeared into the boundless sea of clouds. Rangyu Ishinlin couldn't help but shake his head. He turned around and saw the young girl standing in the same place, looking in the direction where Dizwa disappeared. She seemed to be in a trance. He gently tapped her shoulder with his folding fan. Don't look. He has already left, adding more to the monthly ticket. Chapter 354. A hint of sadness flashed across the girl's pretty face. She finally retracted her gaze and sighed softly. Rangyu Ishinlin glanced at her and couldn't help but shake her head. Yunshi, since you like him, why don't you pursue him? The girl's pretty face turned red. I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. Rangyu Ishinlin waved her fan and chuckled. You're not? Yunshi, you can't hide your thoughts from me. Every time he comes, you'll come. When he leaves, you'll leave soon, right? The blush on Yunshi's face deepened. She bit her cherry lips and glared at Rongyu Tianlan. It seems that you have misunderstood. Didn't I come here once when he didn't come? Yes. Rangyu Ishinlin's voice dragged out with a hint of teasing. You did come once. We've known each other for 1,000 years, and met up hundreds of times. You came to me alone once. Yunshi was speechless. Rangyu Ishinlin waved her fan in front of her. Yunshi, although the three of us have different statuses, we've always been friends. Since we're friends, you don't have to hide it from me. Yunshi lowered her head slightly and sighed softly. Alright, you're right. It's really difficult to hide from the eyes of a 1,000-year-old love saint like you. Tell me, what should I do? If you can see my thoughts, he should know better, right? However, he hasn't reacted at all. There was finally a hint of bitterness in her voice. Rangyu Ishinlin gently stroked her fan with her fingers. Dizwa has no feelings for women. It's hard to imagine what it's like for him to truly like a woman. Yes, he's like an iceberg, the uncivilized kind. Yunshi pursed her lips. Actually, I really want to see what it's like for him to fall in love. Rangyu Ishinlin laughed. She then patted Yunshi's shoulder. You can do it. You're the only woman close to him now. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Do you understand? After all, there's no one else in his heart now. He seemed to have suddenly thought of something and tapped his fan against his palm. Speaking of which, there aren't many people who can be praised as talents by him. He seems to be absent-minded these 2 days. Could it be that he's really moved by someone? Yunshi's expression changed. No. Just now, I saw that the Buddha mirror that he opened was mainly a young man. Are you sure it's a young man and not a woman dressed as a man? No. Although that young man is handsome, he is obviously a boy. Oh. Rongyu gently fanned himself. That's good. Hopefully, Dizwa isn't a homosexual. Yunshi. A quiet room Ningxiuema was meditating and cultivating. After nearly a month of cultivation, the psychokinesis in her body had reached a higher level. Once her psychokinesis reached a certain level, she would be able to look inside her body while cultivating. When her psychokinesis reached the 4th level of the human step, she would be able to see the spiritual root in her dantian in her mind. Because Ningxiuema's dantian was like a bottomless pit and had the strange ability to absorb psychokinesis, she had experimented with storing her psychokinesis in other acupuncture points after much difficulty. Now, when she was meditating, she was finally able to see the spiritual root that she had cultivated through her inner vision. In a vast expanse of whiteness, 2 small sections of the spiritual root were faintly discernible. One was red and the other was green. The red section was only the size of a fingernail, and its color was faint, like a small cluster of flames that could be extinguished at any time. The green section was slightly bigger. It was as thick and as tall as a pinky finger and dark green in color. It was very pleasing to look at. Chapter 355. She actually had wood and fire dual spiritual roots. Ning Xuema was overjoyed. She already knew a lot about psychokinesis in this world, and knew that there were very few people who had wood and fire dual spiritual roots at the same time. When this kind of person cultivated their psychokinesis to a certain level, they wouldn't even need a pill furnace to refine medicine. They could just use their hands. There were very few doctors in this continent, and those who had wood and fire dual spiritual roots were even rarer. They were the targets of all the sects, powers, and countries. Haha, she really wasn't a waste. It was just that her dantian was a little strange. Speaking of which, what was in her dantian? How could it have the ability to devour psychokinesis? Ning Xuema's heart was filled with curiosity, and she tried to use her inner vision to observe that place. As expected, she saw a patch of darkness. That place was like a huge black hole, and she couldn't see clearly. She urged her psychokinesis to move forward a little. Suddenly, her dantian shook, and the small wave of psychokinesis that she urged was sucked into that black hole. Ning Xuema was caught off guard. Her vision turned black and her divine sense turned dark. Her entire body seemed to have been sucked into a dark fog, and she couldn't distinguish north from south. Her heart was shocked, and she subconsciously wanted to run out. However, the suction force was too strong. Her divine sense was too weak and she couldn't break free at all. While the sky and earth were spinning, she sank deeper and deeper into the black fog, but she couldn't see any way out. Damn, she wouldn't enter the legendary Qi deviation, right? To be eaten by her own dantian, that was too strange. Ning Xuema simply stopped struggling, and let that force take her into the depths of the black abyss. She couldn't perceive the passage of time in her mind, and Ning Xuema didn't know how long she had been in that black abyss. The black fog in front of her gradually thinned out. Her divine sense could finally see a little bit of things. She also saw something. No, it wasn't something. It should be a person. A small person, the size of a fetus that hadn't fully formed yet, was lying in an even thicker black fog, swaying slightly. Ning Xuema was speechless when she saw the small fetus. Ever since she had transmigrated, she seemed to have an affinity with children. There were many children by the ancestors' side. Kiran was a child and, she seemed to know another child. Who was he? She still couldn't remember. He stopped thinking about it, and just stood there looking at the small fetus. Looking at the half-curled body lying there. She couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, nor could she make out his facial features. Was there anything more frightening than finding a small fetus in his dantian? Fuck. She couldn't have gotten pregnant before marriage, right? Ning Xuema shuddered silently. Weren't children conceived in the womb? This was the first time she had seen it in her dantian. He was simply a weirdo who could not be any weirder. What was even worse was that she herself was the weirdo. Since she had seen it, she might as well take a good look and see what was going on with the fetus. Spiritual consciousness could do whatever it wanted. Just as she thought of it, she felt that she had already walked in front of the fetus. This fetus looked like a 3-month-old human fetus, and was much smaller than a suckling mouse. It was very small, and there was a light black protective membrane around it. And this protective membrane was in the inky black fog. Ning Xuema subconsciously stretched out her hand to touch the fetus. But she suddenly withdrew her hand. Chapter 356. So hot. The temperature was at least 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. How could a fetus be so hot in its mother's body? While she was still in a daze, she suddenly saw a small opening on the fetus's face that looked like a mouth. It seemed to be smiling. Ning Xuema shivered. Just as she was about to retreat, she suddenly felt her body go numb. She staggered and her body fell towards the fetus. She felt that her palm had touched the fetus's body, and was pressing on the fetus's open mouth. Then, she could only watch as her hand was completely sucked into the little mouth, followed by her forearm. The small mouth was burning hot, as if it was going to melt her consciousness. Ning Xuema was shocked. She tried to struggle free with all her might, but she couldn't. In a moment of desperation, her body suddenly lit up. That little mouth that could swallow people suddenly trembled, and it hurriedly spat out her arm. Ning Xuema took the opportunity to step back. She felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. What the F***ck is this monster? Two slits slowly appeared on the small monster's face where its eyes should be. Ning Xiuema clenched her fists tightly. She could feel a pair of sharp and cold eyes sweeping towards her through the slits. It seemed to be sizing her up. You are. A cold voice suddenly sounded in Ning Xiuema's consciousness. She could not tell the gender of the voice, but she could feel that the owner of the voice was powerful and ruthless. Who are you? Ning Xiuema blurted out. Me? Haha, you'll know sooner or later. The voice laughed with a touch of eeriness. Now you can go out. Following the last sentence of the voice, Ning Xiuema's vision suddenly turned black. Her consciousness floated out of the dark abyss. Ping ping pang. The sound of metal clashing against metal woke Ning Xiuema from her stupor. She opened her eyes with sweat dripping down. She realized that she was still in the quiet room where she practiced martial arts. The sound of fighting outside could not be ignored. I don't mean any harm. I just want to see Miss Ning. A person's voice entered Ning Xiuema's ears. She's not someone you can meet just because you want to. Another cold voice sounded. It was Shi Ju's voice. He was now Ning Xiuema's personal bodyguard. Every time Ning Xiuema cultivated in the quiet room, he would protect her in the dark, ensuring that she would not be disturbed by anyone. Ning Xiuema wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and sighed. Shiju, let him in. I recognize him. The sounds of fighting finally stopped. A moment later, a man in black pushed open the door and entered. He cupped his hands towards Ning Xiuema and said, Miss Ning. Shiju came in almost at the same time as him, and stood in front of Ning Xiuema without batting an eyelid. He coldly said to that person, She is now Marquis Jingyuan. You can call her Marquis. That person paused. As expected, he bowed towards Ning Xiuema and said, Marquis Ning. Ning Xiuema said, Number 1, there's no need to be so courteous. What business do you have with me? That man in black was the 6th Prince Ji Yunhao's bodyguard number 1. He was also very straightforward. This one took the liberty of coming here to inquire about a person from Marquis Ning. Ning Xiuema did not bat an eyelid. Who? Marquis Ning has seen that person before. Number 2. He was ordered by His Highness to protect Marquis Ning when Marquis Ning went into the mountains. Now that Marquis Ning has returned, he has not returned. This one has been searching for him for several days, but there is no trace of him. Does Marquis Ning know where he is now? Ning Xiuema lowered her eyes. She did not want to hide it from him. He's dead. He was captured by the golden-eyed eagle and brought to the 9th peak. Chapter 357. Number 1's expression changed slightly. He had long suspected that number 2 had met with misfortune, but he still held on to a sliver of hope. Now that he had received confirmation from Ning Xiuema, his eyes darkened. Golden-eyed eagle? Why would the golden-eyed eagle capture him? Did you go to the 9th peak? You don't need to ask. Ning Xiuema didn't want to tell him about her fortuitous encounter. When she thought of number 2, her voice became gloomy. He's dead, it's true. I couldn't save him. Number 1's body swayed slightly, then he straightened up like a javelin. He cupped his hands towards Ning Xiuema. Thank you for telling me, Marquis Ning. This matter. I'll investigate it further. I also hope that Marquis Ning won't tell the 6th prince that I came to disturb you. He turned to leave. So he came without telling Ji Yunhao. It seemed that his relationship with number 2 wasn't shallow. You're number 2's friend? Ning Xiuema asked. He's my brother. Number 1 replied. His gaze suddenly fell on Shiju, who was standing at the side. Marquis Ning, can you tell me who he is? Who I am has nothing to do with you. Shiju replied coldly. Number 1's eyes darkened and he looked at him again. You actually look like my brother. It's just that he's not as young as you. Shiju's voice was even colder. There are many people who look alike in this world. I've said it before. I have nothing to do with your brother. Whether or not you have anything to do with him, I'll investigate it myself. Number 1 threw down this sentence, then turned and flew away. It turned out that even though number 2 didn't have any family, he had brothers who had been through life and death, just like her and her brothers back then. Ning Xuema felt somewhat gratified. Every time she cultivated, she would sweat profusely, so she had to take a bath after she finished cultivating. Shiju, you can go and rest. Ning Xuema got up and walked out. You saved me back then because I looked like number 2? Shiju's voice sounded behind her, slightly cold. That's part of the reason, Ning Xuema replied. She had tried her best to save him that day because of his face. If he didn't look like number 2, would she make a move? He should be making a move as well, right? It was just that she wouldn't put in so much effort to gather the heavenly ice grass for him. I'm not him. Shiju paused for a moment, his voice even colder. I know, that's why I'm using your face. Ning Xuema was half serious and half joking. You should be glad that you have such a face. It saved your life. At this moment, Ning Xuema had already walked to the door. Do you like him a lot? Shiju's voice was emotionless. I do. He's like a brother in my heart, the kind that goes through life and death together. Ning Xuema stretched herself. You're using me as his substitute? Shiju's voice sounded even worse. Ning Xuema finally looked back at him. You think too much. It didn't matter if he was a substitute or not. You are you and he is he. You can't replace him. In this world, no one could replace anyone. However, in Shiju's ears, Ning Xuema's words seemed to have another layer of meaning. His fingers slowly clenched by his side. You're saying that I'm not as good as him? What kind of blind spot was this awkward child thinking today? Ning Xuema was too lazy to argue with him, so she waved her hand. Shiju, you're probably too tired and thinking too much. Alright, you can go down. I still have to take a bath, and I still have to go to that damn garden party tomorrow. You still have to stay by my side. You have to be more energetic to give me face. Chapter 358. Get someone else to accompany you. It's best if it's that number 2. Shiju said before he turned around and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ning Xuema was speechless. Did he take the wrong medicine? Or was it because he was still in the rebellious phase of his youth? He was indeed a child with an unbalanced temper. Ning Xuema felt that Lu Hinti must be crazy. He finally kept his promise not to give her any random marriage, but he started to frequently matchmake for her. After he conferred her the title of Marquis, although he did not let her attend court meetings, he often ordered her to participate in some activities of the children of officials. For example, kuju competitions, horse racing competitions, martial arts competitions. Ning Xuema was after all a transmigrator, so she was quite curious about some of the ancient activities, so she also participated in a few of them with great interest. Thus she got to know many children of officials. These children of officials were handsome, cultured, valiant, and strong. There were all kinds of styles, and they were like male peacocks spreading their feathers in front of her. However, every time these people saw her, their expressions were a little strange, as if they had seen a scourge, and they all avoided her. During kuju and horse racing, they were all timid and did not have the hot-blooded vigor of young people. It was as if they did not want to win and only wanted to be inconspicuous, as if they wanted to be invisible. If Ning Xuema took a few more glances at someone, that person's face would turn pale, as if he was about to die. They were afraid that Ning Xuema, the jinx, would take a fancy to them. Ning Xuema participated once and understood what the old emperor wanted to do. He could not bear to part with his son, but he did not want to let go of a talent like her, so he forced these children of officials to hang around her. Whoever she liked would be forced to marry by the old emperor. After understanding Lu Hinti's thoughts, Ning Xuema only felt that it was funny. Her mischievous nature came up, so when she participated in such activities, she would look at whoever was the most afraid of her until they trembled like a weak chicken. She then retracted her gaze reluctantly. Life was boring, and it wasn't bad to find such fun. Every time after attending an event, Lu Hinti would always call her to his side, and lovingly ask her which young master she had a good impression of. On the other hand, Ning Xuema always had an enigmatic smile on her face. She didn't show her emotions, nor did she say who was good. Whenever Lu Hinti questioned her closely, she would sigh softly. These children are not bad, but they are not as good as the crown prince. Her words made Lu Hinti completely speechless. He didn't dare to answer her, and could only smile kindly and let her return to the Fu. After Ning Xiuema had participated in such activities 4 or 5 times, Lu Hinti finally understood that such activities were useless. This little girl seemed to like handsome men. Then it occurred to him to organize a literary society, a garden party. He ordered all unmarried children of 7th ranked and above officials to attend. Those who were already married could also attend. If Ning Xiuema was the only one in a group of young men, it wouldn't be appropriate. Thus, the young ladies of the officials were also ordered to attend. When the time came, Lu Hinti would also be there to liven things up. Ning Xiuema pondered. How was this a garden party? It was clearly a blind date. In order to keep her, the old emperor was willing to spend a lot of money. He even pretended to be the old man under the moon and acted as a matchmaker. Ning Xiuema had been living a comfortable life recently. Every day, apart from practicing martial arts and refining medicine, she would also go shopping. She was also quite bored, so it was good to be able to attend such a banquet and see the excitement of those people. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.